Growing up as a member of the royal family has no shortage of perks, but there are some definite downsides. It's easy to focus on the rules the adults have to follow, but their children have their own restrictions growing up as royalty. We'll let you know about some of the strictest demands placed on these kids and why you'll rarely see Prince George wearing pants in public. Dress code. While his mother Kate Middleton is known for being a fashion icon, Prince George has his own fashion rules to follow. If you follow the royal family, you probably notice that you tend to see him constantly wearing shorts. The royal family is held to a high standard when it comes to clothes, and pants on young boys are traditionally considered mundane. This obviously won't do for the royal family, so young boys are required to wear shorts. All royal children are expected to follow traditional standards when it comes to fashion, just like the adults in the family. You definitely won't be seeing any of these kids sporting graphic t-shirts or other items of casual clothing while out and about. It's the goal of the royal family to look timeless, and even the kids have to dress with this goal in mind. Gifts. When a new baby arrives, it's hard to resist buying them all sorts of expensive toys and clothes for them to rapidly grow out of. So you can only imagine just how many gifts the royal children receive when they're born. By the time Prince George turned 1, he had already received 706 official presents. But that's still far less than his father, Prince William. When he was born, he set the record for gifts received by getting 4,200 presents just for being born. Needless to say, there are a lot of rules about accepting gifts. All of these presents technically belong to the crown, so the Queen gets to decide what is kept. And unfortunately for the kids, the Queen doesn't accept unsolicited gifts for her grandchildren. Instead, these gifts are packaged up and given to charity. How regal. Tiara. Many young children relish the time-honored tradition of pretending to be a princess. But if you're an actual princess, the rules of dress-up are remarkably different. At royal weddings or other momentous events, it's not unusual for women to wear elaborate tiaras. These accessories are often resplendent with historical significance as well as jewels. But there are very specific rules about who can wear tiaras, and this means Princess Charlotte won't be donning one anytime soon. In order for a woman in the royal family to wear a tiara, she must either be married or it must be her wedding day. Tiaras were traditionally meant to symbolize the loss of innocence and the crowning of love, and the royal family still honors this tradition. Hues. In addition to only wearing formal clothing in public, there are rules concerning what shades the kids can be seen in. First of all, it's important for families to coordinate when seen together in public. You'll notice that Kate Middleton and the kids are always well coordinated, while Prince William can get away with just wearing a matching tie. The Queen is known for always wearing blindingly bright outfits, and there's a specific reason for this. It helps boost her visibility and lets the people easily see and recognize her. She once remarked that if she wore beige, many people would fail to recognize her. In order to let their grandmother shine, children in the royal family wear shades which aren't quite as bright as the ones favored by the Queen. Social media. This won't be a big deal for a few more years yet, but Prince George will soon be old enough to start having accounts on social media. But unfortunately, you won't be able to follow him on Instagram because of a very strict rule. Members of the royal family are not allowed to have public social media accounts. They do have formal, carefully curated social media accounts for fans to keep up with. Prince Charles and Duchess Camilla post to the Clarence House account, while Prince William, Duchess Kate, Prince Harry, and Duchess Meghan all post to the Kensington Palace account. When Meghan Markle got engaged to Prince Harry, it caused quite a stir when she shut down her very active social media accounts, as well as her lifestyle website, TIG. But children growing up in the royal family will never know the joy of posting selfies on social media. Gestures. When raising children, it's important to teach them how to be polite in social situations. Of course, royal children are required to learn these protocols as well, but their expectations go above and beyond those of most children. Even something as simple as waving has many rules which must be followed. The children must perform a Windsor wave in various social situations, which differs slightly from a traditional hand waving. It's much more subdued and dignified, and children are expected to master it at a pretty young age. Female royal children have an extra gesture they must learn, and that is performing a perfect curtsy. There are many situations which require a demure curtsy, and even the adult Meghan Markle has found it to be confusing at times. Seating arrangements. There are so many rules of etiquette the royal family is expected to follow that it can be hard to keep track, and these rules are all the more important during a fancy dinner party. It's not unusual for kids to sit at their own tables during such events, but you might find it surprising that royal children follow this rule as well. They're not allowed to sit with adults, and the reason why is pretty surprising. Essentially, since children that young still struggle with the art of polite conversation, they're relegated to their own table. There's definitely an art to scintillating yet proper dinner conversation, and until the kids can master it, they aren't allowed to sit with their family during events. May sound a bit unkind, but we're guessing the children probably prefer it this way. Language. There may be a lot of rules to learn when you're growing up in the royal family, but there are also a ton of benefits. Members of the royal family travel extensively, even at a very young age. Because they're expected to interact with people all over the world, it's imperative that children in the royal family learn to speak multiple languages. At a very young age, children are introduced to various languages and expected to eventually master them. The Queen speaks fluent French, as are Prince William and Kate Middleton. During one anti-poaching commercial, Prince William and Prince Charles showed off being able to speak Spanish, Mandarin, Vietnamese, Arabic, and Swahili. For now, Prince George and Princess Charlotte are working on learning Spanish. Passport. Even the littlest members of the royal family are required to have passports and bring them when they travel internationally. They even have to pay the fee and fill out paperwork, just like the rest of us. There is one member of the royal family who is exempt from this rule, and that is Queen Elizabeth herself. All British passports are issued in the name of Her Majesty, so it wouldn't really make sense for the Queen to issue herself a passport. Apparently, one of the many benefits of being Queen is not having to double-check that you've packed your passport on the way to the airport. Being prepared. Being seen in public without a proper all-black mourning outfit would be considered a serious breach of etiquette. So when the royal family takes off for vacation, everyone is required to pack a proper mourning outfit in case someone passes while they're away. It seems like this might put a damper on packing for vacation, but forgetting this outfit could be disastrous. This happened to Queen Elizabeth once when her father, King George VI, passed away and she forgot to pack a black outfit. She was forced to wait on her plane for an appropriate outfit to be delivered before she could show her face in public. Christmas. Members of the royal family are expected to spend the holiday with the royal side of the family, and there are many other rules to be followed. The family opens their gifts on Christmas Eve because they have many things to do on Christmas morning. The children are required to attend church service at St. Mary Magdalene Church. The royal family has been attending this church since Queen Victoria started the tradition back in the 16th century. You might be wondering just what kind of gifts royalty exchange with one another. The answer is, they take pleasure in giving one another gag gifts. Before Prince Harry and Meghan Markle were married, Kate Middleton once gave him a Grow Your Own Girlfriend kit. They may be royal, but they still have a great sense of humor. Security. There are many things taken seriously by the royal family, and one of them is safety. The adult members of the royal family are required to have security detail, and the children are as well. This becomes a big deal when it's time for school to start. To make things even more complicated, Prince George and Princess Charlotte go to different schools. Sure, the kids have their standard security guards, but heading out for a day of class requires different guards and a different protocol. They even take a different route to school each and every day just to make sure they aren't followed. Pose. Even when the royal children are sitting still, they're still observing traditional royal etiquette. Posture is an extremely important part of their lives, and they're taught to sit and stand with a perfectly straight spine. When they stand, they are to do so with their legs shoulder-width apart from the moment they first learn how to stand up. Princess Charlotte has additional rules to follow as a girl when it's time to sit down. She's not allowed to cross her legs, but may cross her ankles. Most royal women prefer to sit with their knees pressed together and tilted slightly to the side. It's known as the Duchess slant, and you can see royal women sitting in this position frequently. Vocabulary. Some words we don't even think twice about using are simply not said by the royal family. They aren't allowed to use apologetic words such as pardon or sorry. It's also considered unacceptable to use the term perfume, and they must instead remark on what scent they prefer. And no matter how high you are on the royal family tree, you must not ever use the word posh to describe something. Apparently, it's considered the epitome of lower class to call something posh. Instead, they prefer to use the term smart. Weddings. Children are expected to attend the same events their parents do and often have important roles in royal weddings. During royal weddings, there are usually many young bridesmaids, flower girls, and page boys during the ceremony. To add even more pressure to the situation, royal weddings are enormous and highly televised events. This makes it even more imperative that all the children be on their absolute best behavior. Although children at weddings do have the potential to cause mischief, they certainly do look adorable in these royal wedding photos.
There is no shortage of seemingly complicated rules that members of the royal family are expected to follow. You might think that the women in the family get a bit of a break when they're with child, but this couldn't be further from the truth. We'll let you know just what is expected from the pregnant Meghan Markle and what Kate Middleton has already experienced through her pregnancies. Travel. Being a member of the royal family does have a ton of perks, and one of them is being able to travel all over the world. Sure, you have to bring along a contingent of security guards, but it's not uncommon for people to jet off to exotic locales. When Prince Harry and Meghan Markle announced their pregnancy, they had just embarked on a 16-day tour of Australia, New Zealand, and several South Pacific islands. While we were excited to hear the news, we were surprised that these two were on the move despite expecting a child. That's because travel is generally frowned upon when members of the royal family are pregnant. While it's okay for now, as the pregnancy progresses, Meghan Markle won't be allowed to travel long distances. This is both for her safety and the safety of the baby. The particular trip of Harry and Meghan was probably one scheduled way in advance, and it would be more trouble than it's worth to cancel. But hopefully they'll be ready to hunker down until spring of 2019 when their baby is due. Traveling can be dangerous, and when a royal family member is pregnant, it just isn't worth the risk. Royal duties. Many people look at the royal family and think they must live incredibly easy lives. After all, they could spend the rest of their lives having plenty of money and never working another day. But this doesn't mean they sit around doing nothing all day. In fact, being a member of the royal family is a full-time job. Between their royal engagements, government duties, public appearances, and personal charity projects, they're kept quite busy. And they're expected to keep working despite being pregnant. Maternity leave isn't really a thing in the royal family, and it's not a valid excuse to get out of obligations. Just look at how hard Kate Middleton was working up until the births of her 3 children. You might not expect the women of the royal family to work up until the moment they give birth, but this is often the case. When Kate Middleton gave birth to her first child, Prince George, she started attending royal engagements a mere 6 weeks later. However, when she and Prince William welcomed Prince Charlotte to the family, Kate took off about 4 months. Her longest maternity leave was for Prince Louis, when she took April to October off. Even her third and longest maternity leave wasn't anything out of the ordinary for most women in the world. Parties. Now more than ever, it seems as if each and every milestone in a pregnancy is cause for a celebration. But if you're a member of the royal family, the celebrations and expectation of the newest family member are surprisingly meaningful. You definitely aren't going to hear about Meghan Markle having a baby shower anytime soon. In fact, it would be considered positively gauche for a pregnant member of the royal family to have one. After all, this family has more than enough to go around, so on occasion, to shower the expectant mother with gifts would seem ridiculous. Royal children are typically inundated with gifts after they're born, but unfortunately, they'll never get to enjoy them. The royal children are not allowed to accept unsolicited gifts, meaning the hundreds or thousands of presents they inevitably receive are donated to charity. Another popular party is a gender reveal party, but Meghan Markle won't be allowed to have one of these either. Although the expectant parents are allowed to find out their child's gender, they're forbidden to announce it until the baby is born. Kate Middleton and Prince William even chose to leave it as a surprise when their children were born. Notifications. When it comes to giving birth, there is no one-size-fits-all method for success. Some people want nothing more than a delivery room filled with their nearest and dearest friends and family members, but others just want to keep things quiet until they have time to meet their newest family member in private. But if you're a member of the royal family, you can't just get away with sending out a group text after the fact. Besides the parents and hospital staff, the first person to find out about the newest member of the royal family is the reigning monarch, the Queen. New parents aren't allowed to inform anyone before the Queen finds out, even the child's grandparents. When Kate Middleton and Prince William had their children, they were forced to call the Queen on a special encrypted line to deliver the news. Once Queen Elizabeth knew the babies had arrived safely, the new parents were free to notify other family members. And then, of course, there was the whole rigmarole concerning the formal public birth announcement. This announcement will be displayed at Buckingham Palace on print and left on easels. It's expected to show the baby's sex, weight, and time of birth. Birth. There are obviously a ton of rules that pregnant women in the royal family are expected to follow, but there are a lot of benefits they get to enjoy as well. Sadly, the birth experiences of many women depend on what type of medical care they're able to afford. But if you're a member of the royal family, there is no question that you'll have access to the best of the best. Perhaps surprisingly, for a long time, having a baby at home was the norm in the royal family. Obviously, these women need much more privacy and security than the average expectant mother. So in many ways, this made sense. Both Queen Victoria and Queen Elizabeth gave birth to all of their children at home. But of course they had veritable armies of qualified doctors, nurses, and medical equipment brought in. But the past few generations of mothers have changed the game, and now it's expected that new royal mothers will give birth in hospitals. In fact, Prince William made history when he was born in 1982 because his mother, Princess Diana, had him in a hospital instead of at home. She gave birth in the Lindo wing of St. Mary's Hospital, the same place where Kate Middleton will go on to have her 3 children. Naming. When a woman is pregnant, she spends a lot of time planning for the moment she first gets to meet her new bundle of joy. One of the most pressing matters, of course, is what to name their beautiful new baby. This can be a considerable undertaking for the average expectant mother, and it's the reason books of baby names are always flying off bookstore shelves. But when you're carrying a member of the royal family, it's expected you will choose a name which is rich in family tradition. In some ways, this can complicate the whole naming process, but in other ways, it's surprisingly simple. Meghan Markle won't have to worry about the last name of her baby because it simply won't have one. That's right, members of the royal family don't have last names. They have the option of going by Mountbatten-Windsor in honor of the Queen and her husband, but many choose to go on a different route. Instead, they typically go by some sort of family territorial designation instead. For example, when Prince William and Prince Harry served in the military, they were known as William Wales and Harry Wales. Meanwhile, Princess Eugene and Beatrice are known as Eugene York and Beatrice York because their father, Prince Andrew, is the Duke of York. Christening. In addition to picking out a name, planning a christening is something which expectant mothers can look forward to. However, women in the royal family are expected to adhere to strict traditions regarding the christening. The ceremony will take place at the Chapel Royal at St. James Palace in London, and the wardrobe is quite specific. Even the smallest members of the royal family are known for their impeccable fashion, but this doesn't mean they're always buying brand new clothing. They utilize a surprising number of hand-me-downs, and this christening gown is one of them. This garment has been used by 8 generations of royal children. The Honiton christening gown has been worn by 62 royal babies over the course of 163 years. The first to wear it was the future King Edward VII and the Queen, plus Prince Charles, Prince William, and Prince Harry also all wore it. It's a replica of the dress that Queen Victoria commissioned for her first child, Victoria Adelaide Mary Louisa. The Honiton gown was inspired by Queen Victoria's wedding dress and is made from white silk with a lace overlay. It may sound like a simple garment, but this is an important part of royal family history and tradition. Teamwork. Whether a new royal mother chooses to give birth in a hospital or at home, she definitely isn't going to do so alone. In the past, it was unheard of for fathers to be in the delivery room, but this has changed. Queen Elizabeth's husband, Prince Philip, made history by being the first royal husband to be present during the birth of his child. She had been reading about the importance of fathers being involved in the process, so insisted that Philip be present. It was a pretty stark contrast to the birth of their first son, Prince Charles. While the Queen was delivering him, Prince Philip was off playing squash, but now it's expected for royal fathers to be present, and they aren't the only one on hand. When Kate Middleton had her first child, Prince George, she had a team of 20 medical professionals completely dedicated to her care. Prior to the birth of Prince Charles in 1948, royal births had to be attended to by a government official who acted as a witness. Births began to be verified in the late 17th century after the son of King James II's son, James, was rumored to be an imposter. But thankfully for Meghan Markle, Queen Elizabeth did away with that requirement. Titles. Not only do new parents have to worry about choosing a proper and historically meaningful name, but they have to think about the titles of their future children. When someone marries into the royal family, it's common for the Queen to grant the new couple official titles. This is done at the discretion of the Queen, who named Prince Harry and Meghan Markle the Duke and Duchess of Sussex upon their marriage. When it comes to being born with a title, the Letters Patent, issued in 1917, states that only grandchildren born to sons receive royal titles. So the children of Princess Anne, Zara, and Peter Tyndall don't go by his or her Royal Highness. For a while, only the eldest son of the Prince of Wales got a title. However, the Queen amended the decree in 2012, so little Charlotte and Louis would have titles just like their brother. It's customary for the eldest son of a duke to inherit his father's title, so if Prince Harry has a son, he may be known as the Earl of Dumbarton, before eventually becoming a duke. But the Queen has the power to override this rule and may well grant her new grandchild the title of Prince or Princess if she so chooses. Nannies. When it's announced that a member of the royal family is expecting, people immediately begin speculating on how the child will be raised. But the parents aren't the only ones who have to get ready to do a ton of work in that department. Royal children are attended to by no shortage of nannies, and it's considered an essential part of raising a royal child. The strange thing is, these people are so essential to raising the next generation of royal family members, but the public very rarely hears about them. Pregnant women need to select nannies to work with their child. And let's just say the requirements are pretty strict. Being able to change diapers and clean up spills just isn't going to cut it when you're tasking with looking after a royal child. Nannies actually have to undergo martial arts training in a variety of disciplines before they can even be considered for the position. Sure, like all members of the royal family, this child will have its own security force, but this doesn't mean the nanny can afford not to be constantly vigilant. Being a royal nanny is a demanding job, but one with no small amount of prestige.
Look, we know that Meghan Markle and Prince Harry just got married, but everyone's got royal baby fever already. And can you blame them? But if Meghan were to get pregnant, there are a bunch of royal protocols the Duchess would have to follow. So while the couple is certainly looking forward to parenthood, there are a couple of hoops that Meghan will have to jump through, and here are 10 of them. Falling pregnant. People can't wait until Prince Harry and Meghan Markle get pregnant, and everyone loves the fact that they aren't your typical royal couple. But when they finally get ready to produce a new heir to the royal dynasty, they'll have to uphold a bunch of traditions. And one of the first royal rules is you don't just get pregnant, but rather fall pregnant. So what's the difference, you may ask? It's pretty simple. A man can get a woman pregnant, but only a woman can become pregnant. So when the Brits say fall pregnant, it's just a formal way of saying the same thing. It sounds insane. Who knew one little word could send the royal family into a state of chaos? Of course, if you're British, you wouldn't bat an eyelash if the media reported that Meghan Markle fell pregnant. But everyone in the States would probably scream, "Oh my god, is she alright?" So when you hear on the news that Meghan has fallen pregnant, don't panic. Put your heart back in your chest because it's not bad news at all. It's actually great news. No gender reveal party. Gender reveal parties are the latest rage for expecting parents. For anyone who doesn't know what it is, it's a get-together for friends and family where parents-to-be find a fun way of announcing their baby's gender. So why would anyone have an issue with a gender reveal party? There's free food, you don't have to bring a present, and you get to enjoy everyone's company. But it turns out that the royal family prefers keeping the gender of a baby top secret. Don't believe us? Then think back to the time when Kate Middleton got pregnant. No one had any idea whether she was having a boy or a girl until after she gave birth. Even Middleton and Prince William reportedly wanted to be surprised. So it's become a pretty standard rule that all members of the royal family must follow. Sorry, Meghan. Now, when she finally does get pregnant, people will have to find out the traditional way. But honestly, we seriously can't wait until Buckingham Palace announces the much-anticipated royal birth. No baby shower rule. In the United States, baby showers have been trending for a while now. After all, it's a party that celebrates the pending birth of a baby, and guests bring all kinds of gifts for both the mother and the child. Now, who wouldn't want to feast on cake, have a blast with your loved ones, and get a bunch of presents? Well, as it turns out, the royal family isn't a big fan of them. Baby showers apparently aren't a part of a royal tradition, and there's a reason why. According to royal expert Victoria Arbiter, a royal baby shower would be, well, pretty bad taste, particularly given the fact that the royal family doesn't really need any gifts as they can afford to buy whatever they need. One of the reasons most expectant parents welcome a baby shower is because they're gifted tons of diapers and baby clothes. These super helpful gifts will save the family hundreds of dollars. But the royal family is super rich and they can buy pretty much whatever they want, so it wouldn't really make sense to throw a lavish baby shower for Meghan and Prince Harry's baby. Tame maternity clothes. Remember when Kim Kardashian sported that floral couch dress on the red carpet? She was pregnant at the time and she looked absolutely comfortable. But as the Duchess of Sussex, Meghan won't be able to wear anything that's remotely similar to that. As a matter of fact, the royal family expects her to remain as demure as possible. But that's not really much of a surprise. After all, the Queen's style is pretty conservative. Poor Meghan. It must be pretty tough to try to keep up with so many rules. But according to the rule book, she simply has no choice. The Duchess will have to dress in smart casual attire at all times. Oh, and she can't forget about wearing comfy tracksuits. That would be a huge royal faux pas. So when Meghan does finally get pregnant, she'll have to forego comfy loungewear and choose cardigans and maternity dresses instead. Doesn't it sound like fun? Probably not. But who are we to judge their family traditions? Besides, Meghan has proven she's got a rebellious side to her, so she'll probably wear a tracksuit or two in the privacy of her home where no one can see and snitch to the monarch. Super fancy hospital bag. All expectant mothers have a hospital bag ready to take with them when they go into labor. If you've got kids, you probably remember making a list of all the things to pack into your hospital bag. You simply wanted to be prepared for the big event. So you put your favorite magazines, toiletries, and of course your health insurance card. Oh, and you couldn't forget about an old nightgown or a few comfy t-shirts to wear. You would also need some massage oil, lotions, and pretty much anything you think you might need. The American Pregnancy Association recommends happens, you pack an outfit that used to fit you when you were 6 months pregnant. But when you're a royal, yoga pants and maternity leggings are pretty inappropriate to wear, especially when you're ready to leave the hospital. When Princess Diana and Kate Middleton walked out of the hospital after giving birth, they looked totally put together. Their hair and makeup were styled to perfection, and they had an amazing dress and high heels to match. So when both of these women stepped into the spotlight, they were 100% picture perfect. And according to tradition, Meghan will be expected to do the same. Can you imagine trying to walk in heels and a dress a few days after giving birth? No weird names. Why do parents keep choosing embarrassing names for their kids? We're pretty sure they can see the confusion in their friends' faces when they reveal their child will be named something like hashtag or Twitter, right? But for some reason, the weird baby name trend has continued to grow, and people are inspired by all sorts of things like inside jokes and acronyms. But as you can imagine, names like Northwest, Blue Ivy, and Apple just won't cut it with the royal family. That's the whole reason why everyone in the monarchy is named Elizabeth, Harry, George, Charlotte, or Louis. They just can't have someone in the line of succession with a totally bizarre name. Apparently, the royal family prefers using a list of recycled names too. Some of the most common names for females include Victoria, Alice, and Mary, while male names are often Albert and Arthur. However, Meghan is pretty headstrong and could break away from tradition. After all, she has proven to be quite rebellious so far. Besides, it's not like her future children will be high on the line of succession. In fact, according to the rules, Meghan and Prince Harry's first baby will likely be the 7th in line. However, the royal family has managed to stick with their traditional rules over the years, so we seriously doubt the Duke and Duchess will be choosing a ridiculous baby name for their bundle of joy. Notifying the Queen first. Most parents-to-be prefer to wait at least 3 months before telling anyone they're expecting a child, and there's a good reason for that. Some people just don't want to jinx it, so they prefer to wait until it's safe to share the great news. But when a new mommy finally gives birth to her baby, the first thing she'll probably do is tell everyone on social media. But for the Duke and Duchess, that's not possible. For starters, the monarchy frowns upon members of the royal family using social media. Can you imagine not being able to post a photo on Instagram? But even if Meghan broke away from that tradition, the Queen would not be pleased to learn of a royal birth in such a tacky way. According to the rules, the Queen must always be notified first before the news goes public. In fact, when Prince George was born, the media was notified 4 hours after the Queen got the news. So when Meghan does get pregnant and gives birth, the Queen will have to be the first one to know. But if the baby is born at an ungodly hour like 3 a.m., the new parents will have to wait until the Queen wakes up at 8 a.m. to tell her the happy news, which means we'll probably have to wait until at least 10 a.m. to get the public birth announcement. No traveling overseas. There are a couple of rules that also involve traveling abroad. One of them is that you can't eat shellfish unless you're at the palace, but if you're pregnant, you can't travel abroad. Of course, that doesn't mean that Meghan wouldn't be able to travel within the UK. Back when Kate Middleton was pregnant, she made a bunch of public appearances. She attended several museum openings and spoke at hospitals as well. But eventually, she ended up breaking protocol when she traveled abroad while she was expecting. When Middleton was pregnant with Prince Louis, she accompanied Prince Harry to Norway and Sweden. While she was there, Middleton had dinner at the palace and discussed mental health issues in Sweden's Karolinska Institute. Fortunately, the Duchess was in great hands. If something had gone wrong, she had the best possible Scandinavian medical care at her fingertips. However, Meghan may have to adhere to the no traveling overseas rule, and that kind of sucks for her. After all, Meghan is far from the States, so most of her family and friends live there and in Canada. So this travel ban may not fly with her. No pun intended. No fertility testing. There's a rumor that's been floating around for ages, and it involves fertility. Rumor has it that before someone can marry into the royal family, they have to get tested to make sure they can produce an heir to the throne. Otherwise, the entire royal line could go extinct if no one makes any babies. The rumors continued to surface when Kate and Prince William got married, and when the news broke out that Meghan was marrying Prince Harry, everyone thought she had gone through a fertility test beforehand. Of course, this wouldn't be the worst thing that the royal family allegedly did. In the 90s, news outlets suggested that a royal gynecologist confirmed Lady Di was a virgin before she married Prince Charles, but we're pretty sure these are nothing but a series of rumors. After all, the royal family has been the focus of many headlines, rumors, and gossip throughout the years. The monarchy has stayed pretty hush about the whole thing, but who could blame them? We're pretty sure they're too busy to even pay attention to gossip. The magic number. In most marriages, family size isn't really an issue unless they simply can't afford to have a ton of kids, but the royal family is rich, so they don't have to worry about money problems. However, most parents would say 3 is the magic number. Any number higher than that would likely lead to chaos, but is there a protocol to how many kids the Duke and Duchess can have? The answer is no, but the latest line of royals has been sticking to 2 kids so far. As a matter of fact, Prince Charles, Princess Anne, Prince Andrew, and Prince Edward have all had 2 children each. But Kate Middleton and Prince William are the exception. They were blessed with 3 beautiful babies. And by now, everyone knows Meghan makes her own rules and she's influencing her hubby, Prince Harry, to do the same. So, what's the magic number of kids for the lovely couple? Well, that's really up to them. They're not even expected to have a boy first, as the whole concept of men being the only rulers of England no longer applies. Otherwise, Queen Elizabeth wouldn't be in charge. Now that Meghan is taking princess lessons, we're dying to see if she'll take it all in or rebel a little, like in the past.
Being a royal is pretty much every girl's dream. To marry a prince and then become a princess yourself is like a fairy tale. But what most people don't think about is how many rules come with being in the royal family. It isn't all tea parties and social events. Have you ever wondered how Meghan Markle is stacking up against all the rules of British royalty? Stay tuned to find out why her and Harry's engagement photos had the royals up in arms. Today we're showing you 10 rules Meghan Markle has to follow and 5 she's already broken. No selfies. Everyone loves selfies. You'd be lying if you said that you never took one. Pretty much everyone has a selfie or 2 on their Instagram profile. Everyone except royals, that is. Apparently, royals aren't allowed to take selfies in public. They can, of course, take them in the privacy of their own homes, but they shouldn't post them on any social media sites. It may seem like a strict rule, but when you think about it, it does make sense. Selfies are at their core kind of vain. The royal family probably doesn't want to portray vanity in any way. This shouldn't be too big of a problem for Meghan. It's not like she posted lots of selfies before she was engaged anyway. Most of the photos on her Instagram are of the causes that she cares about. We don't see the royal family having any problem with that. No shellfish. This is one of the weirder rules on the list. The royal family isn't allowed to eat shellfish, but the reason behind it isn't really because of dietary restrictions or to stay thin. Shellfish are unpredictable. People often come down with food-related illnesses due to this type of food. The royal family abides by a very strict schedule. They have lots of appearances to make and even more business endeavors to attend to. They can't risk spending a few days in bed due to food poisoning or an upset stomach. Some royals will break this rule and eat shellfish from time to time. Who can resist all shellfish 100% of the time? No one. But even the royals who break the rule definitely don't make it a habit. Must always carry black attire. You never know where you will be when tragedy strikes, so the royals prepare for that. How, you might ask? Well, whenever they are traveling, they must always pack an outfit that is funeral appropriate. The rule stemmed from when Queen Elizabeth's father, King George VI, passed away while she was away in Kenya. The princess had no appropriate funeral attire with her. When she landed back in the UK, there was a sea of paparazzi waiting for her, wanting to see how she was reacting to her father's death. Unfortunately, since she hadn't packed appropriately, she looked more like she was going on vacation than returning to bury her father. In order to keep this from happening again, the royal family instated this rule. They won't be caught unprepared again. No social media. Everyone has social media these days. You'd be hard-pressed to find someone who doesn't, especially celebrities. Their social media accounts are their brands. Social media is how celebrities show the world what they want them to see. But royals aren't normal celebrities. They aren't allowed to have their own social media accounts. Accounts like Kensington Royal post pictures of the royal family, but those accounts are extremely curated. So when Meghan marries Harry, she will have to either delete or turn over her social accounts. This may be for the best, though. Can you imagine if Meghan was Snapchatting all of her nights out once she became a princess? It could be extremely dangerous for the crown. Part of the appeal of the royals is that they are so mysterious. If each member of the family had their own Instagram and Twitter accounts, that would definitely ruin the air of mystery. No voting. In America, voting has always been a super important right. People have died for the ability to vote, but Meghan will have to give that right up when she becomes a princess. Why? Because royals aren't allowed to vote. They are supposed to be completely impartial. Can you imagine if the Queen were to endorse a political candidate? It would cause complete chaos. So no matter how into politics Meghan may be, she will have to stay out of it where Britain is concerned. We wonder if she will still be able to vote in American elections. That may be a conflict conflict of interest since she will be leading a completely different country. Will she become a dual citizen, or will she completely give up her American citizenship? We will have to wait and see. Neutral nails only. There are so many ways to express yourself. Nails are one of them. You can paint them to match however you are feeling, but if you are royal, you don't get to be quite as expressive. Royals are only allowed to wear neutral colors on their nails. In the past, Meghan has opted to wear darker shades than neutrals. She better enjoy the darker colors while she still can, because once she becomes royal, there will be none of that. We completely understand where the royal family is coming from with this rule. Their whole brand is about being clean and polished. Nothing looks more clean than neutral colors. It is also a great way to ensure that you don't offend anyone. This rule might be a bit restrictive, but at least Meghan won't ever have to worry about her nails clashing with her outfits again. Follow the Queen. When it comes to how Meghan will interact with the Queen, there are a lot of rules she must be aware of. For instance, she must curtsy whenever she greets the Queen. Formal greetings between other family members are negotiable, but for the Queen, it is a given. She must also always be watching the Queen during meals. When the Queen is done eating, then everyone else must also be finished, regardless of whether you are still hungry or not. Meghan must also watch out if Elizabeth begins to stand. Whenever Her Royal Highness stands, everyone around her must also stand. For a lot of these rules, Meghan can just look around to make sure if she is doing what everyone else is doing. But if she happens to be not paying attention one day, she could get in some hot water. Tiara. When you look at a princess wearing a tiara, you probably think that she just plopped it on her head and walked out the door. That is not the case at all. When it comes to tiaras, there are plenty of rules. In the past, tiaras were worn pretty far forward on the woman's head, but now modern style dictates that it should be worn a little further back. The tiara must sit at the perfect 45-degree angle when viewed from the side. Meghan must also wear a tiara on her wedding day. Traditionally, the tiara should come from the bride's family, and then after the wedding day, she would be expected to wear the groom's family jewelry. However, this rule is not always followed. The last time it was broken was actually by Harry's mom, Princess Diana. No Monopoly. Most of the rules on this list make sense when you think about them for a while, but this particular stipulation is super strange. The royals aren't allowed to play Monopoly. We know. You are probably wondering why a children's board game would be banned from the royals. Well, apparently the game gets a little too intense. In 2008, the Leeds Building Society gave Prince Andrew the game. Unfortunately, he couldn't accept it. He told them that the royals were not allowed to play Monopoly at home because the game got too vicious. Isn't that funny? The royals, who deal with wars and international diplomacy, can't handle a game of Monopoly. Were they playing with real money or something? They must have been, otherwise, why would someone get so angry over a game that they would ban it from their whole family? We need more answers. Pinkies down. When you were younger, you may have heard the saying, "When in doubt, pinkies out." Well, apparently that saying is completely off. Royals have a specific way of drinking tea, and it has absolutely nothing to do with putting your pinky out. To drink tea correctly, Meghan should use her thumb and index finger to hold the top of the handle. The middle finger will support the bottom of the cup. She must also drink from the same spot so lipstick stains don't get all over the whole cup. If Meghan would rather drink coffee, there are rules for that too. She must loop her index finger through the handle when drinking the caffeine-filled drink. That seems like a lot to remember every time you want to have a warm beverage. We wonder if there are rules pertaining to every drink. What does she have to do if she wants to drink a simple glass of water? No pantyhose. Now that we have gone over some of the rules that Meghan will have to follow, let's get into some of them that she has already broken. For instance, when you looked at Meghan and Prince Harry's engagement photos, what did you see? You were probably just thinking that they were beautiful pictures. Well, the rest of the royals undoubtedly saw something different. In her engagement photos, Meghan didn't wear pantyhose under her dress. Anyone familiar with the royal family knows that this is completely unallowed. Pantyhose must always be worn when a royal's legs are shown out in public. We wonder what made Meghan go against this rule. Maybe she decided that her outfit looked better without the pantyhose and just didn't care about the rule. She's divorced. The royals like to keep everything prim and proper, meaning that they want to portray themselves as doing everything the right way. For that reason, divorce is usually a big no-no. Just look at what happened in the past. Princess Margaret was forced to split from her partner, Edward Townsend, and when Edward VIII wanted to marry the love of his life, he had to abdicate the throne. At that time, marrying a divorcee was extremely forbidden, and he would have rather lived with her than be king. The rule is becoming a little more lax now, as Prince Charles himself married a divorcee after he and Diana split. Meghan used to be married to a film producer named Trevor Engelson, but the two got divorced after only 2 years being married. It doesn't seem like Harry really cares. She talks to the press. We never really know what is going on in the lives of the royals, and you know why that is? Because they refuse to talk to the press, at least not about their relationships. Meghan Markle, on the other hand, was an actress, so she was used to talking to press about romantic things before she even met Harry. In her feature in Vanity Fair, she spoke about what it was like to be with Harry. She told the magazine that they had been quietly dating for 6 months before it became big news. She went into detail about how she was working the whole time they were dating. She even talked about what had changed for her since she began dating him. While giving away details like that may make her more relatable to the public, it is definitely frowned upon by the royal family. PDA is her thing. Royal relationships aren't usually very hot and steamy, and there's a reason for that. They aren't really allowed to be very touchy-feely on one another in public. But Meghan and Prince Harry obviously don't care about this rule. They are always holding hands and holding on to one another. They were even spotted holding hands at the Invictus Games. If they were trying to hide their affection for one another, holding hands at such a prominent event was not the way to do it. These two obviously love each other so much that they don't care how it comes across. We wonder how the Queen felt about that. Do you think she scolded the two when they got home? Can you imagine getting scolded by the Queen herself? Talk about scary. She talks about politics. As we mentioned before, royals are pretty mum's the word when it comes to politics. They aren't allowed to choose sides, at least not in public. Well, in the last American election, Meghan made it very clear what she thought about one candidate in particular. She called the current president of the United States, Donald Trump, misogynistic. She was also very open about her support for his opponent, Hillary Clinton. Now, that was all well and good back when she was just an actress, but now that she is a princess-to-be, things like that are strictly prohibited. We wonder if she will be able to go with the flow and be tight-lipped like the rest of the royals, or if she will have a problem with this rule. Someone who is used to being so outspoken probably won't be silenced so easily.
We all know the royal family has a huge number of rules they're expected to follow, but did you know there is a reason you won't ever see Meghan Markle wearing red nail polish at any time soon? We'll let you in on some of the seemingly strange beauty rules that members of the royal family must obey. Nail polish. Apparently, wearing brightly colored nail polish simply won't do for women in the royal family. When going in for a manicure, they are forced to choose from neutral or light colors. But just because they need to choose something quite specific doesn't mean they need to spend big bucks on special royal nail polish. In fact, Queen Elizabeth swears by Essie nail polish in the color ballet slippers. Reportedly, she owns tons of bottles just to make absolutely certain that she never runs out. Kate Middleton took her cue from her grandmother-in-law and selected a similar Essie shade in Allure. So when Meghan Markle gets her nails done, you can bet that she won't be picking up a bold shade. According to manicurist Carla Kay, ballet slippers is a great choice because it pairs well with all skin tones. We can see why the Queen wouldn't want her family members wearing obscenely long fake nails painted garish colors, but condemning everyone to nudes and pale pinks just seems a bit harsh. It remains to be seen whether Meghan Markle will choose the same nail polish as the Queen or find her own favorite shade within the rules. Simple face. Considering that members of the royal family are only allowed to wear certain colors of nail polish, you can probably guess how strict the makeup rules are. Women in the royal family are expected to keep their makeup simple. You won't see any of them wearing anything more extreme than a subtle smoky eye. Kate Middleton prefers wearing a few swipes of eyeliner, minimal eyeshadow, and a pale pink or nude lipstick. Meghan Markle has kept her makeup simple and within the rules, although she did make a daring move one day for lunch with the Queen. Many devoted fans of the royal family gasped in horror when she wore a shiny lip gloss to take her meal with the Queen. That's definitely a major violation of this royal beauty rule, but maybe she got a pass for being the family's newest member. Or maybe Queen Elizabeth remembered her own wild streak. Back in 1952, she was getting ready for her coronation and wanted a special lipstick for the occasion. She commissioned the brand Clarins to create a red lipstick to match her robes for the day. The brand still holds a royal warrant, so if you want to look like a rebellious queen, you have that option even as a commoner. Hair. Women in the royal family do have some more freedom when it comes to their hair. They need to have it neat and polished at all times, but they're allowed to choose from plenty of hairstyles. Most of the time, they opt for simple, classic hairstyles, which makes sense given their status and busy lifestyles. But if they're attending a formal event, they'd better plan on adding a unique hair accessory. They wear hats, and a great variety of them as well. A long time ago, it was considered extremely proper to wear hats for all notable occasions. While most people no longer follow that etiquette rule, the royal family persists. After all, part of what makes them so special is that they simply hold themselves to much higher standards than the rest of us do. Wearing a big glamorous hat can be fun, but you'd best not wear it past 6 o'clock in the evening. At that time, a lady must swap out her hat in favor of a tiara. If she meets the proper conditions, that is. Only married women or women currently getting married are allowed to wear tiaras in the royal family. That's why you see them wearing tiaras so often on their wedding days to mark the special occasion. Touch-ups. Before Meghan Markle joined the family, Kate Middleton represented the epitome of royal grace and beauty. She had been taking care of her own cosmetic needs since long before she joined the family and continued to do so. We love that she always keeps her makeup simple yet elegant and has established a fast and easy daily makeup routine. Many women aren't shy about pulling out a compact mirror in order to assess how well their makeup is holding up. Reapplying lipstick, fixing errant eyeliner, and dabbing at foundation are pretty standard and fast beauty fixes. But if you're a member of the royal family, it's considered positively unseemly to be spotted touching up your makeup in public. Doing your own makeup for an event can be a lot of pressure, but even more so when you'll be judged if you try to fix something later. Although the no bright lipstick rule might actually help here, since you're way less likely to notice some neutral lipstick if it accidentally gets on your teeth. Since their makeup has to stay pristine for hours at a time, it's essential that women in the royal family learn to use quality primers and makeup setting sprays. Color coordinated. It can be tough to put together the perfect outfit for a big event. It's even more challenging when you know that all eyes will be on you and you're representing your country. Now imagine having to do that many times over. Just ask Kate Middleton, who has to carefully coordinate both her outfit and those of her husband and children. Check out the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge walking with George and Charlotte throughout the Berlin airport. They're each wearing a touch of blue, and this serves a very important purpose. The first thing is that it makes them appear more like a cohesive unit. Also, to further show how much thought went into this, they're dressed in the cornflower, which is Germany's national flower. So many times when you see a picture of Kate, William, and their children, you'll see them dressed in colors that subtly coordinate with one another. Not only does this look natural, but it adds a retro feeling to the ensemble. It's easy to feel nostalgic just looking at this wholesome royal family with their beautiful smiles and tasteful matching outfits. Purses. We all know Meghan Markle has defied royal tradition at times, but sometimes it's ways that are so subtle, only the most eagle-eyed person would notice. When she attended her first royal engagement event with Prince Harry, she was spotted carrying a burgundy and navy Stradbary tote bag. Women in the royal family are expected to carry small clutches instead of large purses with straps. There are a few practical reasons for this, and one is that it discourages people from trying to shake hands with members of the royal family. It may seem rude, but just think about the legions of people who would love to shake hands with them from day to day. Traditionally, it's considered impolite to reach out for a handshake with a member of the royal family, and having your hands full discourages people from trying. To avoid showing off more than they intend, women in the royal family employ what's used as a cleavage clutch. They strategically hold their clutch to their chest to keep things PG in front of their fans and cameras. Sheer beauty. We mentioned earlier that the royal family prefers to dress in traditional styles and observe antiquated standards of attire. When it comes to sheer clothing, women are always expected to have some covering their legs. Many people don't wear pantyhose anymore, but for the royal family, they're a must. This has been a royal family tradition for ages, and Queen Elizabeth has never been photographed without a trusty pair of pantyhose. Kate Middleton follows this rule, and her polished stockings have helped to bring them back in style. When we spotted Meghan Markle sans pantyhose, many people or shock. Many wondered if she was simply unaware of the rule or made the conscious decision not to follow it. However, she did go sheer for her official engagement photos, which also had tongues wagging. Meghan Markle wore a sheer embroidered dress, which was a stark contrast to the conservative dress that Kate Middleton had worn for her engagement photos. All engagement outfits for professional photos need to be approved by the Queen first, which means the Queen had to have given her stamp of approval for this sheer outfit. Pants. You will always see her in pantyhose, but you're not likely to see Queen Elizabeth wearing a pair of jeans. Etiquette-wise, jeans are seen as an exceptionally casual article of clothing, which is why you will almost never see members of the royal family wearing them. Of course, context matters here. If they're simply out for a casual day or taking the dogs for a walk, jeans are no problem. We're used to seeing Kate Middleton wear the occasional pair of jeans, but they're always in great shape and fit her impeccably. When Meghan Markle was spotted wearing a pair of stylish ripped jeans, people were quite surprised. Not only was this look way too casual for a member of the royal family, but it broke some pretty important fashion rules. Meghan Markle will probably always be compared to her sister-in-law Kate Middleton. Since Kate has blazed the way with impeccable style, Meghan's outfits are placed under even more harsh scrutiny. Function and form. The royal family is expected to dress well, but there are a lot of practical things going on behind the scenes. We mentioned earlier that shiny lipsticks and glosses are against the rules, and it's not for any arbitrary reason. Any gloss fan knows that it's zero fun when your hair gets caught up in your lip gloss. And if you're a member of the royal family, you just know the cameras are going to capture that awkward moment, which occurs as you desperately try to unstick your hair from your lips. In 2011, we saw some photos of Kate Middleton dressed in a lovely yellow Jenny Packham dress, which unfortunately caught a bit of a breeze. This could have easily turned into a very embarrassing situation for the Duchess, but luckily the Queen has a solution for such incidences. According to one of her couturiers, the Queen has small weights sewn into the hems of her outfits. Unlike pretty much everything else about the Queen, these weights are nothing fancy. They're the same type that you would use to hold down curtains in your home, but they get the job done and prevent her clothes from blowing around in the wind. Gloves. There was a period of time in which members of the royal family were compelled to wear gloves at black tie events. It's no longer mandatory, but as a result, you'll typically see gloves worn especially for official engagements. The royal family ends up shaking hands and interacting with a wide variety of people, and that exposes them to a lot of germs. It wouldn't do to have them constantly ill, so wearing gloves is a quick and simple way to prevent spreading germs around with the public. If a member of the royal family does decide to wear gloves to a formal event, there are even more rules about how they should be worn properly. You can see them on while traveling to an event, shaking hands, standing in a receiving line, or dancing. If you want to snack on some appetizers, you need to take your gloves off. They also shouldn't be worn at the dinner table, which makes sense because of the whole germ thing. To remove your gloves in a proper royal way, pull them off finger by finger, then simply sit them atop your lap and enjoy your meal.
We all know there are a ton of rules that the royal family has to follow. These include everything from what they can eat to what they can tweet. There are even some pretty crazy rules about what they're allowed to wear. We'll tell you about the fashion rules that the royal family is forced to follow. Colors. We love the fact that Queen Elizabeth II wears such fabulous outfits. Between her brilliantly bright colors and her giant hats, she always looks as if she's on her way to the Kentucky Derby. But there's a reason that she dresses in such an amazing rainbow of colors and encourages her royal family members to do the same. That's because when the royal family is out and about in public, she wants to make sure that they all stand out. When you're in a big crowd of people, it can be difficult to distinguish yourself. The Queen believes that if she wore more muted colors, it would make it harder for people to catch a glimpse of her. Strangely enough, this love of bright colors does not extend to nail polish. It's forbidden for royal family members to wear bright colors such as red on their nails. The Queen chooses to paint her nails in Essie's ballet slipper color when she wants to look especially fancy. Kate Middleton swears by the color Allure by the same brand, and even wore it on her wedding day. It's only a matter of time before we find out what Meghan Markle's favorite muted nail color will be. Children. Not even the adorable royal children are exempt from the fashion rules that the royal family has to follow. If you're a fan of sweet little Prince George, you've likely noticed that you never see the tot wearing a pair of trousers. There's a reason that he's always pictured wearing shorts, and that's because it signifies that he is a member of high society. For the upper class, boys wearing pants is seen as terribly suburban, according to etiquette experts. They're fine for men and older children, but Prince George probably won't get his first pair until he's at least 8 years old. It's a subtle marker of class to be sure, but an important one in many social circles, including that of the royal family. Princess Charlotte may be even younger, but even she isn't immune to the fashion rules of the royal family. She must always be dressed properly, and when she's on royal tours or visits, you'll see her dressed in the brightest of colors. Even though she's not quite old enough to dress herself, her parents make sure that she dresses in a way that Queen Elizabeth would approve of. Sadly, she'll miss out on the teenage girl rite of passage of wearing tons of glittery nail polish. Tights. Once upon a time, it was unthinkable that a woman would venture outside without wearing a pair of stockings. But nowadays, most of us aren't afraid to go out with bare legs. However, the women of the royal family wouldn't dare step out in public without sporting a pair of tights. Yes, this rule is literally constricting, but it's one of the few hard and fast rules that they have to follow. Some fashion edicts allow a little wiggle room, but not this one. All royal women are required to cover their legs with tights when they are out in public. Kate Middleton is a huge fan of John Lewis 7 Denier Barely There tights. If you want to cover your legs like a member of the royal family, you'll be relieved to know that you can grab a pair of these for only about $7.50. Although a black or colored pair of tights is acceptable, the most common color that you'll see the royal women wear is nude. Scandalously enough, we've noticed that Meghan Markle isn't shy about appearing in public with bare legs. Only time will tell if she'll follow this important rule once married, or if she'll stand up and defy the queen by shunning tights. Tiaras. Unless it's part of a Halloween costume, or you're feeling a bit extra on your wedding day, most women don't have many occasions to don a tiara. Of course, we don't have as much access to the number of exquisite tiaras that the royal family does, but still. However, there are very strict rules about who is allowed to wear a tiara and when. Basically, if you're a single lady intended to be married to a royal, you aren't allowed to wear a tiara, so you'll have to find a new tacky accessory for your bachelorette party. Sorry, Meghan Markle, even little royal children aren't allowed to wear a tiara. The honor is strictly reserved for brides on their wedding days, or already married royal women on special occasions. A tiara is an important symbol of royal affiliation, and merely being engaged to a member of the royal family isn't enough to earn you the right to wear one. Until you're ready to make the walk down the aisle, you better not even think about putting a tiara on your head. It also acts as a sign that a woman is officially off the market and not looking for potential suitors. Signaling. While wearing a tiara or not can denote your marital status, it isn't the only royal accessory that can convey a message. Have you ever wondered why Queen Elizabeth feels the need to carry around a purse with her wherever she goes? After all, she doesn't need to have a driver's license or a passport like the rest of us, and probably has a servant in charge of her more mundane items. Her personal bag is used to convey a wide variety of signals to her staff, making this an especially important fashion rule. Let's say that it's dinner time and the Queen is getting ready to wrap things up. In order to let staff know that they should get ready to begin clearing plates, the Queen will set her handbag on the table. This lets everyone know that they have about 5 minutes to scarf down their food before dinner is officially over. If the Queen is stuck in a boring conversation, she will set her handbag on the floor. This lets one of her ladies-in-waiting know that she is over the current situation and needs a polite and discreet rescue. That sounds like the kind of clever idea we might want to incorporate into our own social life. Mourning clothes. Considering the fact that they are so wealthy, it seems like members of the royal family can probably buy whatever they might need on the go. But there is one specific outfit that they must always carry with them, no matter where or how they are traveling around the globe. Members of the royal family always have to carry around a mourning outfit comprised of black clothes. Especially since they're usually spotted wearing such bright colors, it simply wouldn't do to be seen wearing such things if a tragedy had occurred. The royal family is under intense scrutiny, so even being spotted for a moment in a non-appropriate outfit would be a huge scandal. You might think that this is one of those crazy rules that will never come into play, but it totally has. In 1952, the Queen was visiting Kenya with Prince Philip when she received the tragic news that her beloved father had passed away. She hadn't packed appropriate mourning clothes, so she was forced to wait in her plane on the runway until a suitable outfit could be brought to her. It was an embarrassing situation, and one that she's determined no other royal family member will be forced to experience because of poor planning. Cleavage bags. It's probably one of the least shocking aspects of life as a member of the royal family, but the Queen frowns on excessive displays of cleavage. It's simple enough to wear garments with a high neck, but that isn't all that the royal family does in order to prevent an accidental flash of something indecent. We told you that the Queen uses her handbags in order to send messages to her staff, but other royal women use their bags in an entirely different way. Have you ever noticed that many royal women seem to have a clutch in their hands? When Princess Diana was alive, she was one of the most photographed people in the entire world. She was always carrying around a clutch too small to hold much, but they served an extremely important purpose. She called them her cleavage bags, and she used them to make sure that she never showed off more skin than she intended. When she would step out of a vehicle, she made sure to bring up her clutch enough to hide anything that might bring shame upon the royal family. It sounds kind of silly, but it worked like a charm. Hats. We already know that there are a lot of rules surrounding the practice of wearing tiaras, but what about regular hats? You have probably noticed that Queen Elizabeth is a huge fan of hats, and is almost always seen wearing one. That actually has to do with an old etiquette rule that she still follows to this day. Prior to the 1950s, proper ladies were seldom seen without a hat on their heads in public. Showing their hair in public was just a bit too scandalous, so naturally, the Queen would have kept hers hidden away. While the younger generations may not have grown up with this rule, it's one that the Queen still follows. However, there is a time and a place, and there's actually a cutoff time for wearing hats for the royal family. If you're a female member of the royal family wearing a hat indoors, you must remove it by 6 p.m. sharp. It seems like an arbitrary rule, but there is some method behind the madness. Forcing women to remove their hats gives them excuse to pop on that fabulous tiara. Of course, as long as you're married or it's your wedding day. Gloves. Most of us don't even think about wearing gloves unless it's cold out, or we need them for our job. But if you're a member of the royal family, following this fashion rule is pretty much a part of your occupation. In addition to making them look even more rich and fancy than they already do, there is a very important reason why many members don a pair of gloves during public outings. Royal family members spend a lot of time shaking hands and greeting people when they are out and about. This earns them love from the public, but can be rough on the hands. Most people have hands that are dirty and covered with germs, and naturally, royal family members don't want to be exposed to such things skin to skin. Gloves are also a great way to hide some of your flaws. Princess Diana started wearing gloves to hide the fact that she had the bad habit of biting her fingernails. The Queen likes to keep her arms hidden, so she purchases gloves that extend to just underneath her sleeve. To wear them properly, you must remove them before you start eating any type of food. You should pull them off finger by finger, and then rest them underneath your napkin on your lap at the dinner table. Propriety. Of course, the members of the royal family always need to appear proper in public. They just take doing so to the next level. You've probably noticed that Kate Middleton wears a ton of enviable coats. These are gorgeous and sell out in minutes whenever she steps out in one, but you'll never see her shedding that outer layer. For some royal reason, taking off your coat is determined to be an unladylike action, and it's only to be done in the privacy of your own home. So, if Kate Middleton grabs a coat for a day out, she's making a huge commitment, since she can't take it off if she changes her mind. When it comes to shoes, royal women know better than to wear wedge-style shoes in front of the Queen. They can get away with slipping into a pair on occasion, but apparently the Queen just can't stand them for whatever reason. Wearing heels is encouraged for female members of the royal family, but only to a certain extent. It's important that their heels are kept to a proper and manageable height.
Everyone is so excited to welcome the newest member of the royal family, Archie Harrison. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex welcomed their son into the world and have already done away with many traditions in the process. But just because they didn't give him a royal title doesn't mean little Archie isn't going to have to follow a ton of rules as he grows up. Sorry Archie, but it comes with the territory. We're diving into all of the strict royal rules he'll be expected to follow as he grows up. Christening. We all know Prince Harry and Meghan Markle aren't exactly known for following traditions, and they've already broken a few welcoming Archie into the world. The Duchess of Sussex chose not to give birth in the Lindo wing of St. Mary's Hospital and opted out of having her photo taken outside of the hospital. Although Archie did get a formal birth announcement, Prince Harry broke tradition by announcing the exciting news outside of Frogmore Cottage. He was so excited about the arrival of his son, he just couldn't resist the urge to share it with the world. And of course, he had to brag about how amazing Meghan was too. Aww, it's no surprise that one more recent royal tradition Prince Harry did follow was being there when his child was born. Although Archie's arrival may have been unorthodox, he's still going to have to go through some formalities. All royal babies go through a christening when they're a few weeks old, and it's performed by the head of the Church of England. Archie's head will be sprinkled with water from the River Jordan, which holds special spiritual significance. He'll also be adorned in a special royal christening gown, which has already been worn by his cousins Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis. It's a replica of a gown made for Queen Victoria's children all the way back in 1841. That gown was worn by 62 royal babies before it was finally retired. Thank goodness they made a replica. That sounds like one, well, seasoned baby gown. Contact. This is one rule we expect the Duke and Duchess of Sussex to have some serious trouble following. In general, the royal family is supposed to avoid making physical contact with non-family members. It may sound harsh, but there's actually a very practical reason for this. The royal family members have many fans and meet tons of people. That's all well and good, but these introductions also involve a lot of germs. The members of the royal family are always on the go, so getting sick is a huge inconvenience which can interfere with their duties. This is why you'll often see them wearing gloves or carrying clutches instead of purses with a shoulder strap. It's a gentle way of encouraging people not to reach out and provide somewhat of a barrier. This is also a good tip for any germaphobes out there. Carry a clutch and people won't touch you. But as we've said, Harry and Meghan break this rule more than any other royal family members. Meghan is known for shaking hands with people in public without any gloves and even giving hugs to people. We think this will be especially hard when kids are involved. Touching royal babies is a huge no-no, and it remains to be seen how strict these new parents will be about physical contact with Archie. It might be hard for the public to resist touching those adorable chubby cheeks, but they might just have to. Social media. Hopefully this next rule won't be an issue for quite a while, but we can definitely see it coming up. Members of the royal family aren't supposed to have personal social media accounts. Instead, they're supposed to use only the official ones. This was a big change for former social media maven Meghan Markle. Not only did she have to shut down her personal Instagram, but her lifestyle website, The Tig. Deleting your Insta to marry a real-life prince? It's a tough call, but we think Meghan made the right choice. But the Duke and Duchess of Sussex didn't stick with tradition when it came to announcing Archie's birth. Usually, a baby's birth is announced via a traditional royal announcement displayed on an official ceremonial easel. Yes, a ceremonial easel. Just let that sink in. But Meghan and Harry broke that rule too and announced the birth on social media hours before the ceremonial easel could even be taken out of storage. Times have changed. We think announcements should too. Still, when Archie grows up, it'll be against the rules for him to have his own social media account. The only member of the royal family to break this rule is Princess Eugenie, who unabashedly runs her own Instagram. The reason for this, however, is because Eugenie is the only royal who doesn't have a formal working role as part of the family. So there is a slight precedent if Archie decides to rebel when he grows up. Language. Few milestones are as exciting as when a baby starts to talk for the very first time. It's a big step, and Archie Harrison isn't going to be limited to just learning English. Members of the royal family are expected to learn multiple languages, and there's a practical reason for this. Their royal duties often involve traveling to different countries and hosting guests who may not speak English. Sure, translators are a thing, but it's nice to be able to converse with people without them. For the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, reaching out to people is a huge part of their lives, so we have no doubt it'll be important to Archie too. Prince Charles and Prince William once teamed up to film an anti-poaching message in 6 different languages. Between father and son, they spoke Spanish, Mandarin, Vietnamese, Swahili, and English. Show-offs? Prince William and Kate Middleton's children are learning how to speak Spanish since it's the second most commonly spoken language in the world. It wouldn't be surprising if Archie also receives tutoring in this language, and we aren't just talking about watching Dora the Explorer. Clothing. It's no coincidence that members of the royal family are always impeccably dressed. Everyone follows the fashion of Meghan Markle and Kate Middleton, but their children also have to follow certain style guidelines. Have you ever noticed that every time you see a picture of Prince George, he's always dressed in shorts? That's a throwback to an era when it was considered high class for young boys to wear shorts instead of pants. Seems kind of backward, right? Well, the royal family prides itself on preserving tradition and adhering to high standards. That means Prince George, Prince Louis, and yes, Archie too, won't be wearing pants for quite some time. If Archie wants to put on some slacks like his dad, he'll probably have to wait until he's around 7 or 8 years old. We all know that no small part of being a member of the royal family means posing for seemingly endless photos. For this reason, royal family members do their best to match their clothes and stick to the same color scheme. The Duke and Duchess of Cambridge are big fans of doing exactly that. Technically, there aren't any strict royal protocols or rules surrounding the colors the royal family should wear. However, if we had to guess, we'd say it's all about tradition. If you look back on older photos of royal family members, coordinated color schemes were everywhere. This coordinated color scheme presents a very put-together picture of a close-knit family. It also has the added benefit of making their image more timeless, so they always look chic. Of course, while Archie will be wearing the clothes, we have a feeling Meghan Markle is going to be in charge of the coordination. Do you think Meghan will make Archie stick to a certain color scheme at all times? Holidays. In some families, where to spend the holidays can be a point of, well, contention. But for the royal family, there's no question that spending Christmas with the royals is the proper thing to do. Christmas with the royals kind of sounds like a Netflix special, doesn't it? Anyway, the royal family has no shortage of Christmas traditions, and spending the holiday at Buckingham Palace is considered the norm. The family opens their presents on Christmas Eve because Christmas Day is just so busy. Are you wondering what the adults in the royal family buy each other for Christmas? After all, what do you buy people who have everything? Apparently, the adults take joy in buying each other gag gifts every year for Christmas. Kate Middleton and Prince William have broken this very important rule before by taking their kids to Kate's parents for the holidays. But somehow we think this is the one rule Meghan and Harry might follow. Meghan spent Christmas with the royal family before she and Harry were even married, which was considered quite shocking. Although she's close with her mother, Doria Ragland, she has let's just say a strained relationship with the rest of her family. So it looks like Archie will be in for many royal holidays spent with this side of the family. Dinner. Archie is a long ways away from worrying about his table manners, but he'll get there someday, and when he does, there is a whole list of rules for him to follow when it comes to dining with the royal family. First of all, he and the other children are not permitted to sit with the adults at formal family dinners. Instead, they're seated at a separate table with their nannies attending to their needs. Why? Because in the royal family, these dinners facilitate polite and sophisticated adult conversation, and these kids are just too young to take part. This sounds pretty formal, but many families have a kids' table at family get-togethers, and the kids certainly don't seem to mind. Don't act like you didn't get into food fights at the kids' table on Thanksgiving, right? Speaking of eating, Archie is going to have to base his meals around what his grandmother is doing. It's forbidden to keep eating after the monarch is done eating their meal. Back in the day, Queen Victoria was known for finishing her meals with astounding speed, leaving her family and guests struggling to chow down before time was up. But thankfully for Archie, neither Queen Elizabeth nor her heir apparent, Prince Charles, is known for gulping down their food. Travel. Part of being a member of the royal family is traveling all over the world, and as you've probably guessed, there are tons of rules to be followed while abroad. For some time, it was forbidden for multiple heirs to travel via airplane together in case something went wrong. Sounds kind of superstitious, doesn't it? However, this rule has been broken time and time again. Prince Charles even took Prince William on a flight with him when he was only 9 months old, and Prince William has flown with his own children many times. Although this rule seems to be getting phased out, don't worry because there are plenty more restrictions. All members of the royal family need to get their passports for traveling. Well, everyone except for the Queen. Because British passports are issued in her name, she doesn't need to get one. But her great-grandson Prince George got his passport issued when he was only 9 weeks old. Archie is also going to have to pack an all-black outfit just in case someone passes away while he's gone. Wait, what? They have to pack for a funeral at all times? Yes, this may seem crazy and dark, but Queen Elizabeth actually ended up stuck on a plane when a loved one passed away and she had no appropriate mourning clothes packed. It created an awkward situation as someone had to fetch her an all-black outfit so she could disembark. And it also created a new rule that everyone has to follow. Moves. Young children gradually learn to walk and perform other normal physical tasks, but royal children have a few extra milestones they need to hit. One is the Windsor wave, which is an essential part of being a member of the royal family. It's a distinct style of hand waving which involves holding your hand vertically and twisting your wrist slightly. Sound off in the comments if you just tried it. Many think it looks classier and more dignified than a frantic hand wave, and it's supposed to convey regality and control. Right after Princess Charlotte was born, an adorable 2-year-old Prince George wowed fans by executing an adorably perfect Windsor wave for the first time. It's only a matter of time before Archie learns the famous Windsor wave too. He'll also have to master perfect posture. Other kids may be able to get away with slouching or sticking their hands in their pockets, but not children in the royal family. Sound off in the comments again if you just caught yourself sitting up straighter. Archie will be taught to stand with a perfectly straight spine with his feet shoulder width apart. If he ever has a sister, she'll have to learn the Duchess slant style of seating. Royal women can't cross more than just their ankles, so they sit with their heels together leaning slightly to one side. And of course, it's always important to have your chin up and shoulders back, whether you're doing a Duchess slant or not. Archie may not be required to follow this pose, but his mom Meghan Markle is, and she always looks like the classy Duchess she is.
We've seen how rebellious some royals can be. Prince Harry was notorious for his unroyal behavior throughout the years. But would you bet your money on the Queen also breaking some royal rules? We didn't think so. However, the Queen has been showing off her rebellious side recently. She made a comment about Brexit, knowing full well that royals are supposed to be neutral in politics. The Queen might be throwing even more traditions out of the window, especially after breaking these for Meghan Markle. Keep watching to find out which 10 royal rules the Queen has broken for Meghan. No church weddings for divorced brides. Joining the royal family by marriage is a tough task. For the most part of history, royals would only marry other royals, however obscure or related they were. Nowadays, the rules to tie the knot with an actual prince or princess aren't as strict. Non-royal folk are now welcome to join the fold. As much as we'd want true love to be the motive behind a royal wedding, it's unfortunately not on the list. One pretty strict rule enforced by Queen Elizabeth was about divorcees. In the past, royals weren't allowed to marry divorcees at all. The Queen's own uncle abdicated the throne so he could marry an American divorcee, thus passing the crown on to her father. But the rule has since been relaxed, and now divorcees can marry royals. They just can't have the whole royal church wedding. The Queen was quite strict about this rule. When Prince Charles married Camilla Parker Bowles, they had a simple civil ceremony that the Queen didn't attend. Queen Elizabeth may have a previous marriage that ended in 2013, but her wedding to Prince Harry was anything but simple. The Queen had allowed Meghan and Harry to have a huge royal church wedding, even though Meghan was a divorcee. No getting married in May. Caterers, flowers, the dress. There's a lot to think about when planning a wedding. But when planning a royal wedding, the list of things to stress over just gets longer. There are the media and photographers, and of course the high-profile guest list. You wouldn't think superstition would find its way into a royal wedding, right? Well, think again. Queen Elizabeth's great-grandmother Victoria strongly believed in the age-old superstition, marry in May, rue the day. Whether you've heard about it or not, this saying has been around for ages. The ancient Romans weren't fans of getting married in May for a number of reasons, the most plausible one being that May was the month they celebrated the dead. The Queen's sister, Princess Margaret, married in May and then eventually got divorced. Could the myth be true after all? The Queen seems to think that Meghan and Harry can overcome the superstition, and she allowed them to have a May wedding. Only British music allowed in the wedding ceremony. Meghan may be joining one of the most famous English families in the world, but she's not letting go of her American roots. There are still many things that Meghan does that show she's American at heart. For one, she still makes visits to the US because her mom lives there. She also went to New York recently and threw a baby shower, a pregnancy tradition that Brits don't practice. Meghan stays true to her identity as the first American princess, and it might be with the help of the Queen herself. Perhaps the Queen's breaking of the rules also allowed Meghan to feel more accepted and welcomed. When it comes to music at a British royal wedding, there's not much discussion. The orchestra pretty much does their job and plays the usual British music, but both Prince Harry and Meghan had some specific songs they wanted played during the ceremony. Meghan wanted some American songs, and the Queen gave the green light. Anyone want to bet that the next royal wedding will have some Beyoncé songs in it? Christmas with the royal family. Christmas for the Queen is kind of a big deal. During this holiday, it seems like the royal family is just like any other. They let the young children decorate the tree, though the Queen often checks in on it to make sure it fits her standards. They exchange gifts on Christmas Eve and even play a bit of football with the locals. On Christmas Day, the whole family goes to church for a Christmas morning service. Keep in mind that the royal family's Christmas celebration is strictly family only. Convention states that outsiders can only join in once they're married into the family. Kate Middleton didn't get an invite to this royal Christmas event until she was married to William in 2011, but the Queen made an exception for Meghan in 2017. She got to join in on the family celebrations even though she was only Harry's fiancée at the time. It seems the Queen's been rooting for the couple since day one. Coat of arms is given to the family of the bride. What do you get when you marry into the royal family? Besides a royal title and more money than you'll ever need, you'll also get your very own coat of arms. Meghan Markle's coat of arms was revealed in May 2018, and it depicts many symbols that go back to Meghan's American roots. The shield's background color is blue, representing the Pacific Ocean. It also has golden rays that symbolize California's sunshine. Below the coat are poppies, which is the state flower of California. Standing on the left of the coat is a lion, representing Prince Harry, while on the right is a songbird symbolizing Meghan. Traditionally, the coat of arms is bestowed upon the family of the bride. In Meghan's case, however, the coat was given only to her. Unlike Kate Middleton's emblem, which reflects both sides of her family, Meghan's is specific to her alone. The Queen must have seen how difficult their situation was and chosen to leave her family out. The bride's father gives her away. This next rule is a tradition that is practiced in many weddings, not just the royal ones. Many fathers dream of, or dread, the day they have to give their daughters away on their wedding day. Walking down the aisle with their daughter is often an emotional moment. It doesn't always have to be the bride's biological father, though. Giving the bride away often goes to the father of the bride, but it can also be done by a close relative or a father figure. Meghan had originally tasked her father Thomas to walk her down the aisle on her wedding day. But things started to get iffy just weeks before Meghan's big day. Thomas flip-flopped between going to the wedding and not going, citing heart problems and fear of embarrassing Meghan and the royals. In the span of 28 hours, Thomas had changed his mind thrice about going to the wedding. 2 days before the wedding, Meghan announced that her father would not be attending the ceremony. The Queen allowed her to break royal tradition, and Meghan walked up the steps of St. George's Chapel alone, before being walked down the aisle by Prince Charles. At least the Queen was ready with a backup father figure this time. Brides don't give speeches. It's common in American weddings for the best man, maid of honor, and the couple to give speeches. Sometimes even the parents get their time with the mic. In English weddings, this isn't the case. The royals follow this rule. The best man gives a speech, followed by the host of the wedding party. In the case of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's wedding, Prince Charles hosted the event. Occasionally, after the two men give their speeches, the groom will say a few words as a toast. The bride is let off the hook, which works for particularly shy royals who hate public speaking, but Meghan is anything but that. The Queen must have seen Meghan's vibrant personality and agreed that the newlywed should be given time to thank her guests. During the wedding reception, Meghan delivered an emotional speech. She expressed gratitude towards her mother and her new in-laws for their love and support. She also said that finding love again was worth the wait. Seeing as the love she found was in the form of Prince Harry, we couldn't agree more. No garlic. Is the Queen secretly a vampire, or does she just hate having bad breath? Either way, the food in any royal gathering must be super bland. The Queen absolutely hates garlic, so it's practically banned from the royal kitchens. Her disdain for garlic is so strong that she doesn't allow any other royal to eat it either. Apparently, when the Queen does come over for dinner, the protocol is to clean your room, bring out the fine china, and hide all the garlic. Despite the Queen banning a number of ingredients and dishes, the rest of the family still indulge in them from time to time. Prince Charles has been spotted out indulging in shellfish, which the Queen banned because of its higher risk of food poisoning. The key is to just keep it away from Queen Elizabeth, who prefers a diet of grilled or poached fish with a side of veggies. But the Queen lets her hatred for garlic die down when Meghan Markle's around. On the night Prince Harry proposed to Meghan, the pair were cooking up a roast chicken with a lot of garlic. Always cover your shoulders. For the royals, revealing clothing is just a no-no. The women in the royal family in particular are expected to dress modestly and appropriately. Strangely, the rule extends to not wearing skirts that are above the knee or baring legs without stockings. The Queen also prohibits the royal ladies from exposing their shoulders or cleavage. Apparently, Queen Liz isn't a huge fan of the cold shoulder. But when it comes to Meghan Markle, she's willing to break the rules for fashion. The Queen's birthday celebration, known as Trooping the Color, showcases a huge parade and various military spectacles. It's a huge deal to say the least. And all the other royals attend in their best attire to show respect for the Queen. But when Meghan showed up to her first first ever Trooping the Color, she arrived in a stylish but off-the-shoulder gown by Carolina Herrera. It certainly was a beautiful dress, but the cut would not have passed the Queen's standards. Perhaps it was the fact Meghan was the one wearing it that made the Queen let it slide this time. Miss, not Ms. We must have lost our royal wedding invite in the mail, but that doesn't mean we didn't get a glimpse of it. Invitations to a royal wedding are exceedingly formal. As the host of the wedding, Prince Charles was the one responsible for inviting all the guests. Though he's not the most popular or well-liked royal, he's still a royal in every sense. The wedding invites have to follow strict royal protocol since they're practically royal documents. The wording and usage of titles have to be on point. There's no room for typos or colloquial speak here. Generally, the bride on a royal wedding invite is referred to as Miss So-and-so. Kate would be Miss Kate Middleton, or her invite, as the Miss is a title of a young, unmarried woman in the UK. But because Meghan was previously married, it wouldn't be appropriate to call her Miss. The Queen then allowed the invite to read Ms. Meghan Markle, a title that doesn't depend on marital status. Keep note of the missing dot after Ms. That's how they do it over in the UK.
When she got married to Prince Harry, Meghan Markle knew she would be expected to follow certain rules to fit in with the royal family. While she's willing to master the perfect curtsy, there are still some things this mom-to-be just won't compromise on. The Duchess of Sussex is known for shaking things up, and she's doing away with some long-standing traditions when it comes to her birth plan. This time, Meghan is the one handing out rules to those involved with the birth of her first child. Find out why this royal birth will be totally different than those experienced by Kate Middleton. Doctors. When it comes to selecting the perfect medical professionals to assist her with bringing her child into the world, Meghan Markle wants to get it just right. Her grandmother-in-law, Queen Elizabeth, has a team of trusted medical professionals she turns to when she needs care. Naturally, she would be more than happy to refer Meghan Markle to them, but there's just one tiny issue with this. Meghan ain't interested. Allegedly, Meghan Markle has turned down the Queen's suggestions in favor of finding her own medical professionals to work with, instead of the, quote, men in suits. She's hoping to find a team of female practitioners to make her feel more comfortable. Ever since Meghan Markle first met Prince Harry, there have been some rumors of her rubbing the royal family the wrong way. And of course, because she dares to choose her own medical staff, people are already accusing her of being difficult and deviating from tradition. Although the Queen has access to the best of the best, it's apparently not part of Meghan's birth plan. Lindo Wing. There are some royal birth traditions which have been passed down for generations, but while others are more recent, they still hold a special place in the hearts of royal family fans. It's pretty much become a tradition for members of the royal family to give birth in the Lindo Wing at St. Mary's Hospital. Queen Elizabeth's sister, Princess Anne, delivered both of her children, Peter and Zara Phillips, there. It was also the hospital of choice for the late Princess Diana, who welcomed Prince William and Prince Harry into the world. Kate Middleton had all three of her children there, and many people assume Meghan Markle would give birth there as well. However, Meghan and Harry are moving into their own little slice of paradise, and it's a bit of a hike to St. Mary's. The happy couple is calling Frogmore Cottage their home, which means this Lindo Wing is simply inconvenient. And of course, in the interest of privacy, Meghan and Harry are keeping their plan quiet. It's thought they will choose a hospital closer to their new home, or even in the house itself. After all, for quite some time, home births were considered the norm in the royal family. Maybe in this surprising way, Meghan Markle will honor an older tradition. Prince Harry. For as long as they've been married, Prince Philip has always supported his wife, Queen Elizabeth. He said before that he feels being a supportive husband is part of his job, and it's one he takes very seriously. So it may surprise you to know that he was out playing a game while his son, Prince Charles, was born. Although this may seem shocking, it was actually considered the norm at the time. It was unheard of for royal men to be in the delivery room, and he missed his first 3 children being born. Finally, prior to the birth of Prince Edward, the Queen had gotten fed up. She insisted Philip be present in the delivery room as she felt it would help her relax. This kicked off a new tradition of royal fathers being present at the births of their children. Prince Charles was there when his sons Prince William and Prince Harry were born, and William was on hand when his own children were delivered. Considering how close Meghan and Harry are, and that they're known for being a modern couple, it would be shocking if Harry missed out on this moment. Teamwork. Earlier, we mentioned that Meghan Markle is seeking to put together her own team of medical professionals, and we do mean an actual team. Most new mothers are subjected to the whims of the hospital schedule, but not Meghan Markle. Any medical professional who works with her has to be willing to work in a team. Some reports claim the Duke and Duchess of Sussex have accumulated as many as 20 specialists ready to assist them when Meghan goes into labor. And being a part of the royal birth team means much more than simply showing up once things get started. These professionals get started about 3 months prior to Meghan's due date, just in case the baby decides to make an early appearance. Because they need to be ready to leap into action at a moment's notice, this means foregoing certain creature comforts for 3 long months. This includes no drinking during this time frame. It's thought that Meghan's dream team includes 2 obstetricians, 3 midwives, 3 anesthetists, and 4 members of surgical staff. In addition, Meghan also requires 2 special care baby unit staff, 4 pediatricians, 1 lab tech, and between 3 or 4 case managers. Secrecy. Even something as simple as whether the child is a boy or a girl is a closely guarded secret. It would be considered a massive breach of tradition if someone other than the Queen herself found out the gender of the child. As soon as Meghan Markle's baby is born, it will be up to Prince Harry to make an extremely important phone call, because they aren't taking any chances. He'll be using a private encrypted phone line to do so. This will go straight to his grandmother, the Queen, who will be the first to know whether she has a new great-grandson or great-granddaughter. If even the Duke and Duchess of Sussex are expected to operate under such secrecy, you can imagine the demands on the staff. Nanny. Meghan Markle has plenty of criteria she needs those involved in the birth of her child to fulfill. But when it comes to hiring people to take care of her new baby, Meghan Markle has some thoughts on this as well. Being a nanny to a member of the royal family is a prestigious honor, and the training they go through is nothing short of rigorous. But it seems as though the Duke and Duchess of Sussex might be putting off hiring a nanny, at least at first. Despite being a prince, Harry insists his upbringing was far more normal than most people assume. This was something Meghan and Harry also want for their own child, so they are choosing not to take part in some royal family traditions. Instead of hiring a nanny to help out with the new baby, Meghan is hoping to rely on help from her mother, Doria Raglan. Part of the renovations planned for Frogmore Cottage includes a room for Doria to stay when she visits. It remains to be seen if Meghan and Harry will hire a nanny when their child gets older, or if they'll be more of the do-it-yourself types. Announcement. So, we know that the Queen is pretty much the first to know all the new information about the latest member of the royal family. But don't think that the royal family sends out a standard birth announcement to commemorate such a momentous occasion. Hospital staff need to keep things quiet until the official Buckingham Palace announcement. This long-standing tradition started in 1837 and involves a framed notice being placed on a ceremonial easel in front of the palace. That's right, not just any old easel can be used for this. Afterward, bells will ring out at Westminster Abbey and St. Paul's to celebrate the new addition to the family. Fancy! The social media accounts of the royal family and their website will also announce the birth. So if you can't make it to Buckingham Palace to check out the formal announcement, don't worry, you'll still get the news. Of course, medical professionals involved in the birth are still going to have to stay quiet on the subject. It would be considered a catastrophe to have one of them update their social media about the birth ahead of the royal family. No touching. In general, a good rule of thumb is don't touch members of the royal family. Of course, medical professionals will undoubtedly have to interact with both Meghan Markle and the baby, but no more than is necessary. While adults in the royal family are supposed to refrain from physical contact, it's considered even less appropriate to touch the children. Obviously, the safety of the royal family is top priority, but it can be difficult to see what's the harm in a hug or a handshake. And in fact, many younger members of the royal family aren't particularly strict about this rule, including Harry and Meghan. They've been known to hug and shake hands with eager fans when the situation calls for it. But there is a practical reason for this rule, and it has to do with their health. The royal family is a busy family, and they don't exactly get sick days. Many of them stick to carrying handbags and wearing gloves in order to avoid making contact with members of the public. But considering how much the royal family loves babies and children, we have a feeling the latest family member is going to get plenty of affection. Home Secretary. Many of the traditions of the royal family make sense from practical perspectives, but while the family does respect traditions, many of them don't exactly translate well to modern days. There was once a rather strict birth tradition broken by none other than Queen Elizabeth herself. Back before there was DNA testing, it was a genuine concern that a royal baby might be swapped out for a non-royal baby. During the 17th century, King James II and Queen Mary Beatrice welcomed their son James Stuart. However, their enemies started a rumor that the boy was not their true son and was instead an imposter. Because of this, it became standard for the Home Secretary to oversee all royal births. This ensured no trickery was taking place and the public could rest easy regarding the subject. However, the last time a Home Secretary attended a royal birth was when Queen Elizabeth herself was born in 1926. She decided she didn't need any extra audience members when she delivered her children. So this tradition was abandoned, and we have a feeling Meghan Markle isn't going to be the one to revive it. Post-birth photo. Delivering a baby is a difficult process, to say the least, but members of the royal family do have some advantages. Cost is no consideration for them, nor is the standard of care. But there is one aspect of a royal birth that makes most mothers cringe. Of course, we all can't wait to see the latest member of the royal family and be sure that both mom and baby are happy and healthy. But still, there's something unsettling to many about the traditional post-birth photo. Allegedly, when Prince George was born, the first visitor Kate Middleton had was her hairdresser, who made sure she looked her best. Kate Middleton dutifully posed with each of her children in front of the hospital so photographers could capture their first photos. However, royal photographer Tim Rook claims this is one tradition Meghan Markle is unlikely to take part in. She and Harry seem to prefer a much more private lifestyle for themselves and their baby. It seems like these first-time parents are taking it slow and want to enjoy sharing their child with the world on their own terms. For Meghan Markle, that doesn't involve posing for a post-birth photo shoot.
Everyone is talking about the fact that the Duke and Duchess of Sussex are expecting their first child in spring 2019. This is an exciting time for the couple, but it also means Meghan Markle is going to have to learn a whole new set of rules to follow. Today we're talking about the rules royal mothers must obey. Announcement. There are lots of ways to announce the birth of a new baby. Some people send out excited texts, others take the time to call, and many send out announcements in the mail or newspaper. But if you're a member of the royal family, the birth of your child will be announced in a very different fashion than most of us are used to. Traditionally, the birth of a child is announced via a signed document, which is displayed on an easel outside of Buckingham Palace. If this sounds a little bit out of date to you, wait until you hear what happens next. A town crier then announces the birth wearing traditional clothes and even ringing a bell. Previously, this would have been the extent of it, but now things have changed. Prince William and Kate Middleton updated this tradition by also announcing the births of their children on social media. However, the Queen will have to be the first person to know about the birth of the child, besides his or her parents and doctors. Then things get loud when cannons are fired across London to celebrate. And you can expect to see the Union flag flown from all government buildings to honor the arrival of the latest member of the royal family. Names. We all know the royal family is big on tradition, and this is even more important when it comes to baby names. In general, royal children are named after members of their family. For example, let's take a look at Prince George's name. His first name, George, comes from King George VI, the father of his grandmother, Queen Elizabeth. His next name is Alexander, which is the male version of his grandmother's middle name, Alexandra. Like his youngest brother, he also has Louis in his name, a tribute to the uncle of Prince Philip. When asked about the name of her baby, Meghan Markle revealed that she and Harry are currently staring down a long list of family names. But if you're eager to know which name they select, we have some bad news for you. You'll have to get ready to wait. Typically, a baby's name isn't announced right away. The royal family wants to make sure they've made the right choice and share the name with their family before the public finds out. The Queen took about a month to announce the name of her son, Prince Charles, but thankfully, Kate Middleton didn't make us wait that long when she had her children. Exposure. When Prince Harry started dating Meghan Markle, people couldn't stop talking about it. Not only did Prince Harry seem to be head over heels in love, but he had fallen for an actress. Before becoming engaged to Harry, Meghan Markle appeared on the show Suits and maintained her own lifestyle website called The Tig. While some people wondered how she would fit in with the royal family, she actually had some surprising advantages. Sure, she had to learn how to curtsy and follow a dress code, but she has always been used to being in the spotlight. Some celebrities like Dax Shepard and Kristen Bell make it a point to do everything possible to keep their children from the paparazzi, but Meghan Meghan Markle won't have this option. When she welcomes her child into the world, she'll be expected to show off her new bundle of joy and take them to many public appearances. Already, people can't stop talking about her pregnancy, and public interest will only increase until the baby is born. This means Meghan Markle won't have the option of keeping her pregnancy or her child low-key. Before long, she'll be teaching a new little royal how to do the Windsor wave. Manners. Most parents believe an important aspect of raising their children is teaching them to have good manners. But the criteria is even harsher when you're a child growing up in the royal family. Your manners are expected to be impeccable at all times. Because these kids make so many public appearances, a public temper tantrum would be the height of embarrassment for their parents. Like all children, royal children need to learn how to say please and thank you. But there are many other things to learn as well. One is the Windsor wave, which is a refined and dignified way to greet others. If Meghan Markle gives birth to a girl, she will be expected to learn how to perform the perfect curtsy. She will need to curtsy whenever the queen enters the room and to higher-ranking people in the family. Knowing when and how to curtsy is quite complex, and even Meghan Markle has been spotted struggling with knowing when it should be done. Girls in the royal family are expected to sit properly with their legs together and pointed to one side in a position known as the Duchess slant. Education. As you can imagine, members of the royal family don't exactly send their children to public schools. Education is extremely important to members of the royal family, and they can afford the very best for their children. For a long time, it was the custom to hire private tutors who would teach the children in their own homes. This would be done until the children were deemed old enough to head to an exclusive boarding school. The children of Queen Elizabeth all attended Gordonstoun in Scotland, which was notorious for its strict discipline. However, Meghan Markle will have more options when it comes to selecting a school for her child. Modern royal parents tend to be more progressive and now send their children to a wide variety of different schools. While the Duchess of Sussex will be required to send her child to a good school, the term good is more subjective than it once was. When it came time for Prince George to attend preschool, his parents selected an exclusive Montessori school with a tuition of $23,000 per year. The public was surprised when the Duke and Duchess of Sussex chose a different school, Wilcox Nursery, for their daughter, Princess Charlotte. Guests. Rules followed by members of the royal family do tend to be strict, but sometimes they do change. We're guessing Meghan Markle is relieved that the birth of her child won't need to be supervised by an official. It might sound crazy, but this was actually a rule for a long period of time. During the 17th century, King James II and Queen Mary Beatrice welcomed their son, James Stuart, to the world. However, an absurd rumor was started that the newest member of the royal family was actually an imposter. Because of this, it was decided that the Home Secretary would attend the birth of all royal children. This would ensure the royal family wouldn't try to pass off another baby as their own. But thankfully, Meghan Markle won't have to deal with the birth of her child being supervised by a stranger. This tradition ended with the birth of Queen Elizabeth herself back in 1926. While the Home Secretary may not be in attendance, it's expected Meghan Markle will have a large team of doctors and other medical professionals on hand when she gives birth. There was a time when it was unheard of for royal fathers to be on hand for the birth of their children, but this has also gone out of fashion. Dress code. One of the many exciting parts of becoming a parent is getting to pick out cute clothes for your new bundle of joy. Well, at least it's usually fun, but Meghan Markle is going to have to keep tons of fashion rules in mind when she's getting her child ready in the morning. If she has a little boy, he'll be expected to wear shorts instead of trousers. The royal family wears more traditional clothing to help them stand out and maintain an air of dignity. Historically, young boys wearing pants was seen as lower class, which is why you always see Prince George wearing shorts. Little girls are supposed to dress in a sophisticated manner, which explains the adorable smock dresses with Peter Pan collars we always see Princess Charlotte wearing. Royal families are expected to coordinate with one another and wear similar or complementary colors. Even Prince Harry will at least be expected to match his tie with whatever his family is wearing. Although they're encouraged to wear colors, royal family members tend to choose more subdued hues. The Queen is known for her brilliant wardrobe, and they want to make sure she stands out in a crowd. Godparents. Many parents are familiar with the process of choosing godparents for their new child. Generally, 2 godparents are chosen, and it's considered quite the honor. But in the royal family, children are expected to have a veritable team of godparents at their disposal. You might expect their closest family members to make the cut, but this generally isn't the case. For members of the royal family, choosing godparents is often a strategic and practical decision. It's a way to make sure their children have many people close to them, so royal parents often skip over obvious choices. For example, you might expect Prince Harry or Pippa Middleton to be one of the 7 godparents of Prince George, but neither was selected. Instead, William and Kate chose many of their close friends. The only member to make the cut was Prince William's cousin, Zara Tindall. After all, Prince Harry and Pippa Middleton are already quite close to the family, so them helping out with their nieces and nephews is kind of assumed. Some royal rules are easier to follow than others, and we're guessing Meghan Markle won't have any trouble with this one. She's known for having many good friends, and she'll likely be able to choose several of them to receive this significant honor. Title. Some members of the royal family relish their roles. Prince William quit his job in order to spend more time attending royal engagements and supporting his grandmother, Queen Elizabeth. But Prince Harry has never been overly interested in the royal life. Sure, he loves his family and does his duty, but it's well known that he tries to live as normal a life as possible. He even made waves once by claiming that nobody in his family particularly wants to rule. They only do so because it's required. Considering this and Meghan Markle's background, it's no surprise these two parents would like their child to have a relatively normal upbringing. Royal titles are awarded by the Queen at her discretion. Most likely, their child will be given the title Earl of Dumbarton if it's a boy, and would eventually inherit the title of Duke from his father. If the baby is a girl, the title will probably be Lady Mountbatten-Windsor. Meghan and Harry would have the option of requesting a prince or a princess title from the Queen, but we're guessing they most likely won't. Princess Anne, the daughter of Queen Elizabeth, actually turned down royal titles for her two children so that they could pursue their own lives and career. We wonder if Harry and Meghan might do something similar. Christening. Many families have specific religious traditions, and the royal family is no exception. All babies born into the royal family are expected to be christened, and certain family heirlooms must be incorporated into this momentous occasion. The silver baptismal font used is called the lily font, named after the flower. Queen Victoria and Prince Albert used it in February 1941 for the christening of their first child, Victoria. She was baptized in the throne room of Buckingham Palace, and now the lily font is stored in the Jewel House section of the Tower of London. This sacred font isn't just filled with any holy water. Generally, it's flown in straight from the River Jordan. It's believed this was where St. John baptized Jesus himself, so it's no wonder this is what the royal family chooses to use for their children. The royal christening gown worn by royal babies also hails from Queen Victoria. She commissioned it for her daughter Victoria, and it was worn by a total of 62 royal babies, including Prince William and Prince Harry. However, in 2004, it was deemed too fragile to be used any longer. Instead, a replica was made, which is what Meghan Markle's baby will undoubtedly wear on his or her special day.
Life as a princess isn't just the romantic fairy tale we all imagine. There are public responsibilities, high expectations, and a laundry list of rules and protocols to follow. Prince Harry will expect his new bride to comport herself like a royal as they experience their life together. In this video, we're exploring 10 of the strictest rules Prince Harry makes Meghan Markle follow. Kiss voting goodbye. As a member of the royal family, Princess Meghan will no longer participate in politics. The royal family is often thought of as a political body, but nothing could be further from the truth. Not only do they hold no political power in the United Kingdom, but each member of the royal family is careful to appear as politically unbiased as possible. This means that the formerly outspoken Markle will have to remain mum when matters of a political nature come up. While there are no formal laws barring the royal family from voting as citizens, the Queen and those closest to her still refrain from casting a ballot. Many consider it unconstitutional for the monarch and those closest to her to participate in elections. This will possibly be one of the most difficult changes for the new princess to adjust to. In marrying Harry, she's walking away from a life of activism and political action. There are some moments when breaking royal protocol can be overlooked, but this may be the strictest rule Prince Harry has for his new bride, and perhaps the one she may try to subtly break the most as time passes. It's certainly worth keeping an eye out for subtle hints as this opinionated woman carries out her royal duties. Embrace natural beauty. As a remarkably stunning woman, Meghan Markle is certainly no stranger to subtle makeup looks. Though the successful actress has never shied away from her natural beauty, she has been known to sport the occasional dramatic look for formal occasions. But as a member of the royal family, those vivid colors and false eyelashes are now a thing of the past. The Queen frowns on bright colors, heavy blush, lash extensions, and even bright colors of nail polish. The monarch is famous for her love of Essie's ballet slipper pink polish, and feels that unnatural manicure colors are cheap and distracting. Royal nails must always be kept trimmed and neat as well. All that time shaking hands with the public means even Meghan's cuticles will be under scrutiny. The princess will also be expected to keep her hair perfectly blown out and silky smooth at all times. The royal family expects hair to be neat in any style. Messy ponytails and top knots simply will not do. Life in the public eye demands that all royal women are at their elegant, ladylike best, at all times, from classic makeup looks to tidy hairstyles. Meghan must pay more attention to her appearance now more than ever. Say farewell to shellfish. One area of our lives that we all expect to have control over is our diet. Unfortunately for the new Duchess of Sussex, she will have to abide by a laundry list of dietary restrictions and regulations. Perhaps the strangest of these is the avoidance of shellfish. All royals avoid eating shellfish as these foods can cause foodborne illness. With a strict schedule and so many public appearances, it's simply impractical to risk any downtime while dealing with a case of food poisoning. As if losing shellfish weren't enough, Meghan will also have to forego garlic, as the Queen has banned its use in the royal kitchens. There are several items you won't find on the royal dinner menu. Pasta, rice, and potatoes are reserved for special occasions, as the Queen prefers to dine on lighter fare, such as vegetables and grilled fish. At royal functions, the princess will have to pay close attention to the Queen. When she's finished with a course or a meal, the plates are cleared for all guests, whether they've finished or not. Should the monarch place her purse on the table, the dinner must end within 5 minutes. We're sure Meghan is no stranger to healthy eating, but this level of control is extreme for anyone. Little black dress. Members of the royal family spend a great deal of time traveling the world for humanitarian trips, public appearances, and business trips. As such, they all must have developed packing habits and routines that assure they can maintain their clean-cut and elegant appearance for any occasion. There are many rules regarding what must be packed for an overseas royal journey. As the Duchess of Sussex, Meghan Markle must now include funeral attire to her travel must-haves, carrying a little black dress with her at all times. This rule was put in place by the royal family in 1952, while then Princess Elizabeth was traveling through Kenya. She sadly lost her father, King George VI. No one had packed mourning wear for the Queen, and there were photographers awaiting the landing of her plane upon her return. The Queen was photographed in inappropriate attire for the somber occasion. As a result of this unfortunate occurrence, all members of the royal family must travel with appropriate funeral attire in case one of their family members should pass away while they're abroad. This ensures that they will be appropriately dressed for the somber mood of the occasion upon their return. The little black dress is a staple in any woman's wardrobe. For Meghan Markle, it's now become an important traveling companion. Headwear. Not only are Meghan's hair, nails, and makeup highly regulated, but what goes on top of her head is as well. As Harry's wife, Meghan will be expected to sport a hat or fascinator to all daytime formal events. This rule is a holdover from when it was considered improper for women to show their hair in British society. Hats have been a royal staple since the 1950s. Queen Elizabeth is famous for her elegant and cheerful hat collection, and she often sets the standard for British hat fashion. Hats are not the only option for royal headwear. As a married woman in the royal family, Meghan Markle will be welcome to wear tiaras at formal and state events after 6 p.m. There was quite a lot of speculation as to which tiara Meghan would wear on her May 19th wedding day to Harry. While there are no formal rules regarding which tiara a bride may wear on her wedding day, there are certainly trends and conventions. Bridal tiaras within the royal family tend to be floral. From the moment Harry proposed, there were whispers that perhaps Meghan would wear the Spencer tiara worn by her late mother-in-law. The princess chose to borrow the Queen Mary's diamond bandeau to reflect her new royal status and marriage into the Windsor family, proving that the Duchess is already mindful of just how important her fashion choices now are. Hands off Harry. Newlyweds are famous for their affectionate overtures, but this simply won't be the case for Meghan and Harry. The prince's status and high-profile lifestyle mean it would simply not be appropriate for the young lovebirds to be seen as being overly affectionate in public. In fact, the couple is rarely seen kissing or even holding hands in public. There is no formal rule dictating that royals cannot display their love publicly. However, the Queen is rarely seen so much as holding hands with Prince Philip, and as such has inadvertently set a royal standard. Prince William and his wife uphold this very strict standard. That's because Prince William stands to inherit the throne, and he and the Duchess of Cambridge wish to appear professional. Harry and Meghan follow slightly less strict etiquette regarding public displays of affection, and were even photographed kissing and holding hands at the most recent Invictus Games. This slightly relaxed attitude is due to Harry's place in the royal succession. As he is less likely to inherit the throne than his brother, the rules aren't quite as strict, but Harry will still expect his new wife to keep her public image in mind as the two carry on their royal lives. An end to fan service. As a successful actress, Meghan Markle is accustomed to greeting the public and her adoring fans with a bright smile and bottomless friendliness. With over 21 career appearances, the Suits star has always maintained a loving relationship with her fans. She's often seen hugging her fans, posing for selfies, and signing autographs to delight the crowds. As a royal fiancé, Markle was often photographed breaking royal protocol by eschewing the expected handshake for the warmer and more American hug. Autographs were once a part of Meghan Markle's everyday life, but as a member of the royal family, autographs are strictly off-limits. Harry's wife must refrain from offering her signature to her adoring public to prevent potential forgers from learning her handwriting style and faking her royal signature. Selfies are also off the table for the Duchess. Royals are forbidden from taking selfies with the public to discourage commoners from turning their backs to the Windsor family. This rule is also to encourage eye contact and conversation between the Windsors and the public. When the royals meet with the public, the expected greeting is a 2-count handshake to avoid showing any favor with a longer or shorter shake, as well as to avoid wearing out royal hands at lengthy public engagements. Wedges are out, clutches are in. It's no secret that Harry's new bride loves shoes. A quick glance at her Instagram feed proves that the activist princess loves her footwear. Royal women are subject to several rules regarding the style of shoes they may wear. For example, Kate Middleton must travel with at least 2 pairs of beige heels. While beige heels are in, wedges are out. There is no formal rule regarding these comfortable shoes. However, Her Majesty the Queen strongly dislikes them, and the royal women have taken note. Shoes aren't the only accessory carefully controlled in the royal family. Handbags make an important statement too. While Meghan Markle was often seen carrying large, gorgeous bags and totes, royal women are encouraged to carry a dainty clutch at royal appearances. Not only do these diminutive bags fit the delicate and elegant look that the royal family promotes, but they also provide a polite excuse to avoid shaking hands with commoners. Princess Diana often held her clutch to her chest to protect her modesty when getting in and out of cars. Modesty is extremely important for a royal woman, and a well-placed clutch can prove indispensable. Accessories make or break an outfit, and within the royal family, they can make or break the rules as well. Keep your place in line. Meghan Markle's new family expects everyone to remember their place. Your position in succession to the throne determines a great deal in Windsor life. Your place in line to the throne determines how formal you must behave, how affectionate you can be to your spouse in public, and even where you can stand. The Queen always walks ahead of her family, with even Prince Philip keeping a few paces behind. Each family member follows behind in order of succession. These rules apply to everything from entering and leaving rooms to carefully orchestrated seating arrangements at dinner parties and events. Meghan will have to be mindful of her place in the royal order. While her husband's place in line for the throne allows her more freedom than Princess Kate, there are still a great many expectations of her behavior in public. As a formerly outspoken and independent woman, this public submission may be a big adjustment for the American princess. Meghan Markle may be the first in many hearts, but she's 8th in the royal processional. There are some royal rules which can be bent or even broken, but the order in which the royal family appears is a formality that must be observed. The Duchess slant. Crossing your legs is an obvious etiquette staple, but even this widespread convention is heavily policied in royal life. While many would choose to cross their legs at the knees, that simply would not do for Princess Meghan. Crossing your legs at the knees leaves too much room for immodest mishaps. With the paparazzi watching her every move as she makes constant exits from vehicles and spends hours seated at public engagements, Meghan must employ the now famous Duchess slant. This Windsor-preferred leg crossing technique employs the ankles rather than the knees as the primary point for crossing. The knees and legs are kept tightly together and slanted to the side, creating a flattering zigzag line for photographs and protecting your modesty. This pose was dubbed the Duchess slant by Beaumont etiquette after the Duchess of Cambridge, Kate Middleton. The delicate pose was also a favorite of the late Princess Diana. This pose is not only more modest than crossing at the knee, but when Princess Meghan is expected to be at her elegant best for an extended time, this pose is much easier on the body. It's been noted that Princess Meghan picked up royal etiquette very quickly, and the Duchess slant is one move she's mastered.
Being a member of a royal family may seem glamorous and prestigious, but of course it isn't all fancy hats and corgis. There are some pretty strict rules that even the children are forced to follow. We'll let you in on 15 shocking rules that royal kids have to abide by. Now, on to the rules. Board games. Yes, there are some toys that members of the royal family are forbidden from playing with. One in particular is a classic board game, and it's not banned for reasons you may think. Prince Andrew was once presented with a board game that he was forced to decline because it's against the rules. What game was it? That would be Monopoly. And it's not banned for the reason you might think. It has nothing to do with politics and everything to do with the combative nature of the game. Much like most families, even the royal family can't play Monopoly without delving into vicious arguments and betrayals, so the game was officially banned. We're sure there are many players out there who just landed on Park Place wishing that it was banned in their household as well. Language. After binging on enough of Dora the Explorer. Many kids know basic Spanish phrases, but it's a requirement for royal children. No, not Dora, but learning multiple languages. The royal family travels frequently, and it's both important and impressive that they know how to converse with people in their native tongues. Prince Charles and Prince William even teamed up to film an anti-poaching message in which they spoke 6 languages between the two of them: Arabic, Spanish, Mandarin, Vietnamese, Swahili, and of course, English. Little Prince George and Princess Charlotte will get there someday, as the two tots have already begun learning how to speak Spanish. It's the second most commonly spoken language in the world, so it seems like a good starting point for these two. Already, Prince George has learned to count to 10 in Spanish, and that's just the beginning. Dress code. You've probably noticed that you don't see members of the royal family wearing ripped jeans and cropped tops. That's because they actually have a very strict dress code in place. Think of all the photos you've seen of Prince George, and you might notice that he's nearly always in shorts regardless of the weather. Pants on young boys are considered quite common, while shorts indicate his status as a member of the upper class. He probably won't be allowed to wear pants until he is 7 or 8 years old. And if Princess Charlotte dreams of playing with nail polish when she's a little older, she might be disappointed. Family members aren't allowed to wear non-natural looking polishes, so no glitter or bright colors allowed. In fact, Kate Middleton's favorite shade is Allure by Essie, while the Queen favors ballet slippers. We wonder what shade Meghan Markle will opt for. Travel. This rule is one that has thankfully been relaxed a bit in recent years, so time will tell how it will evolve as the royal children grow up. For a long time, air travel was considered quite dangerous, and it was forbidden for heirs to ride in the same aircraft even if they were traveling to the same place. This ensured that if there was an accident, there would be survivors to carry on the lineage of the family. So the Queen, Prince Charles, Prince William, and Prince George won't be taking any family holidays aboard the same aircraft anytime soon. However, with air travel becoming increasingly safer, the Queen has been known to relax this rule on rare occasions, such as when Williams and Kate were permitted to take little George with them on their flight to Australia. When it comes to traveling, the Queen has the final say. Family holidays. Depending on how you feel about your own family, this one could be seen as a blessing or as a curse. There's no arguing about which set of grandparents the kids are going to spend Christmas with, because it's the royal ones. Christmas at Buckingham Palace is a big deal, and participation is mandatory, even for the children. However, there have been a few times when this rule has been disobeyed, such as when Prince William and Duchess Kate took the kids to visit Kate's family instead. And Meghan Markle got a pass to spend Christmas with the royal family, even though she isn't technically a member yet. Maybe in a few years, Prince George and Princess Charlotte will be subjected to arguing over which side of the family to spend holidays with, but at least they won't have to play Monopoly with whichever side they end up with. Eating. There are a lot of rules that the royal family has to follow when enjoying a meal, from which hand to hold your fork in to how to fold your napkin. But those are in keeping with etiquette that most of us follow, or at least try to. But when you're dining with the Queen, you're not allowed to take another bite after she's finished her meal. That means the kids have to hurry up and chow down, or miss their chance for their Christmas dinner. Queen Victoria ate notoriously quickly, making family dinners with her a rather hectic and hurried affair. However, since Queen Elizabeth is in her 90s, we are guessing it isn't hard to finish up a meal before she does. Nicknames. Many of us recall having childhood nicknames. Some were cute, some made us cringe as we grew up, but they're practically a rite of passage. However, this is something Prince George and Princess Charlotte won't get to experience. Nicknames are strictly forbidden in the royal family. Even calling Kate Middleton Duchess Kate isn't good enough if you meet her in person. She should be addressed as Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Cambridge, Countess of Strathern, and Lady Carrick-Fergus, or the slightly shorter Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Cambridge. Even though he's still a little boy, Prince George's official title is His Royal Highness Prince George of Cambridge, which is quite a mouthful for a boy who just learned how to count to 10 in Spanish. But it's sort of a trade-off, since it means he won't have to risk entering adulthood while saddled with an embarrassing nickname. Windsor Wave. Just like mastering a secret handshake to get into an exclusive club, even royal children are expected to learn certain gestures. One important hand move is known as the Windsor Wave. This distinct style of waving is accomplished by holding your hand vertically and twisting your wrist ever so slightly. It's thought to convey regality and control, and certainly looks a lot better than frantically waving at people. Prince George showcased his skill publicly for the first time when he was nearly 2 years old and his sister had just been born. As his father carried him into St. Mary's Hospital, the young prince delighted onlookers by displaying the signature Windsor Wave. It was a sweet part of the special day in which Prince George was introduced to Princess Charlotte for the very first time. Gifts. If you thought your in-laws gave your kids too many gifts, just imagine how Prince William and Princess Kate feel. But accepting gifts is another opportunity for the royal kids to show off their proper manners. There is a protocol for everything, including graciously taking a gift from the giver. No matter how terrible the gift is, it's required that you accept it with a smile and a sincere statement of thanks. If you think that's just good manners, keep in mind that the royal family receives strange gifts that the average person will probably never encounter. These include rocks, slingshots, buckets of dates, and beanies made out of camel hair. And you thought it was tough mustering up a smile when you received socks for a Christmas present as a child. Passport. Interestingly enough, the Queen doesn't need a passport when she travels. Since British passports are issued in her name, it would be sort of odd for her to issue one to herself, so she just forgoes the whole thing. But other members of the whole family do have to have them, even the children. Despite being as easily recognizable as the Queen, her family members have to pony up the fees to have official passports made up, and that includes the children. When it comes to customs and immigrations, the royal children do not get any special treatment. They're expected to follow the same rules and regulations as the rest of us. Even the Queen has to go through a quick identity check when she travels, just to make sure. Security. Security is a subject that is taken very seriously with the royal family, and it starts early. As children get older and thus more mobile and adventurous, they generally get more security as they become harder to look after. Typically, only your parents get excited about your first day at kindergarten, but if you're Prince George, you need a security force outside of your classroom. This is part of standard family protocol and is non-negotiable. This, of course, is in addition to the young prince's standard pair of bodyguards. They even take a different route to school each day, just to make it harder for someone to track them. A 40-year-old was once arrested for breaking into Prince George's school, although thankfully the prince wasn't there at the time. Posture. There are a ton of etiquette rules that the royal family has to follow, and the children are no exception. While other kids might be able to get away with slouching or tucking their hands into their pockets, it's forbidden for royal children. They're taught from the time they can sit up to do so with a straight spine, and when they stand, their feet should be shoulder-width apart. Unsurprisingly, royal girls have extra rules to follow. For example, they're not allowed to cross their legs while sitting and may only cross their ankles at very most. Many sit with their legs together and leaning slightly to one side, which is known as the Duchess slant. With your legs in the proper position, you must then make sure your back is straight and your chin is parallel to the floor. Language. Maybe you experienced having your mouth washed out with soap after saying a bad word as a child, but a royal child's vocabulary is even more limited. In addition to the traditional forbidden words, there are certain words that people in the royal family are forbidden from uttering, and if you're ever fortunate enough to meet one of them, you should avoid them as well. Instead of asking where to find the bathroom, you should ask where the lavatory is. Apologetic words such as pardon are also simply not used. Perfume may sound like an innocuous word, but royal children are taught to refer to it as scent instead. Saying the word posh, or heaven forbid, referring to yourself as such, is definitely against the rules. It's considered a low-class thing to say, and the preferred term is smart among the upper class.
Every family has their own traditions that they follow, but their traditions probably don't come close to the rules the royal family has to follow. They've passed down their traditions for centuries, from generation to generation. Just wait until you hear the interesting rituals that take place during royal dinners. Let's just say you better not be a super slow eater, or you might offend the Queen. Today we'll be showing you 20 rules all royal family members need to follow from birth. No Monopoly. Some families love to spend time together and bond by playing a board game, like the real estate-themed game Monopoly. Since 1935, people from far and wide have been passing go and collecting $200 with this classic game. Everyone except for the royal family, that is. In 2008, the Leeds Building Society gave Prince Andrew, Duke of York, the game as a gift, but he admitted that the royals weren't allowed to play it because the competition would get too vicious. We have to say, they're definitely missing out on some fun. Gender reveal. Some couples can't wait to announce the gender of their unborn baby to their family and friends, but gender reveals are done a bit differently in the royal family. Parents are actually forbidden from announcing the gender of the baby until it's born. This turns the pregnancy into a fun event where the public can make bets and guesses on whether the mom will have a boy or a girl. There's a chance this long-standing tradition might change in the next few years, but for now, the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge have continued to stick with this tradition throughout their multiple pregnancies. Hands off. When visitors from other countries meet a member of the royal family, it can be a truly nerve-wracking experience. Because there are so many etiquette rules to abide by, many visitors have accidentally broken a bunch of these traditions and customs. Most people aren't aware that there's a strict no-touching rule when it comes to the royals. This rule dates back to medieval times when monarchs were considered gods, and therefore, they were to remain untouched.
Whoa, no touchy! No touchy! No touch.
In 2009, former United States First Lady Michelle Obama shocked the entire world when she and the Queen embraced each other. While the Brits were ticked off by Michelle getting a bit too handy, judging by this picture, it looks like the Queen was really digging the PDA. NBA player LeBron James made a similar mistake when he wrapped his sweaty arm around Kate Middleton's shoulder. In this photo, you can see the awkward expression on Kate's face. It's pretty clear some royals are okay with being touched, while others aren't. To play it safe, we'll just stick with the hands-off rule if we ever come in contact with someone from this family. Sit like a royal. Women in the royal family aren't allowed to just plop down on a chair however they want. They must sit in a very particular way. All you have to do is pull up photos of Kate Middleton and Princess Diana to see how a royal lady is supposed to sit. Women aren't allowed to cross their legs at the knees. Instead, their legs must be kept together and they can cross them at the ankles if they wish. Leaning their body to the side, known as the Duchess slant, also ensures perfect posture and makes their legs appear longer. Morbid outfit. When traveling, the royal family must pack very specific clothes. When it comes to the children, Prince George must have at least 5 pairs of shorts of various colors in his luggage. Princess Charlotte must have at least 10 barrettes, and the Duchess must have at least 2 pairs of beige pumps. And lastly, each member of the royal family must pack an all-black mourning outfit just in case a relative passes away while they're away from home. This ensures that when they return to the UK and step off of the plane, they'll already be dressed in a respectable and somber outfit to pay their respects. 2 kids. Royal couples are welcome to have 3 or 4 kids, but traditionally, members of this family tend to have no less than 2 children. The Duke and Duchess of Cambridge have broken this tradition by having 3 kids of their own, but no one seemed to mind. In fact, Queen Elizabeth and members of both families have said to be delighted by the news that the couple was having a 3rd bundle of joy. We think it would be awesome if they expanded their family even further by having 4, 5, or even 6 kids in the near future. Don't turn your back. Whenever someone comes in contact with the Queen, they're instructed to never turn their back to her. It can be seen as a sign of rudeness and disrespect, so everyone must ensure they're always facing her or standing off to the side of her at all times. When former US President Barack Obama and First Lady Michelle paid her a visit, they were briefed on all of the royal rules. So they made sure to have their backs to the cameras multiple times in order to talk to the Queen, and they only turned forward to face the media when it was time to take photos. Breastfeeding. Most royal children have been breastfed, but the family has gotten rid of a long tradition of having wet nurses. A wet nurse is a woman who breastfeeds on behalf of the mother, and in the past, the royal family employed many lactating women to get the job done. The women who were hired had to at least be of good character and have a healthy appearance in order to be chosen to breastfeed the royal offspring. In later years, Princess Diana broke this tradition by insisting on nursing William and Harry herself. Special order. The next time the royal family pops up on your television screen, pay close attention to the way they walk and where they're seated. A lot of people don't realize that the family must all walk and sit in a very special order. They line up in accordance to who's next in line to the throne. The official order goes like this. Queen Elizabeth II is first, and her husband, Prince Philip, is always right behind her. Then comes Prince Charles and his wife, Camilla. Prince William is up next, followed by the Duchess, and so on. You will never see them pictured out of this order at formal events. Follow the Queen. During grand dinners, everyone must follow the behavior of the Queen. Tea and snacks are usually on the menu, and tradition states that once the Queen takes her very last bite, everyone else must stop eating as well. And when she stands, everyone must follow suit. This could turn into a problem if a royal family member is a really slow eater, but if they take another bite of food after the Queen is all finished with her plate, they might come across as rude and impolite. Dinner chats. Speaking out of turn is looked down upon when you're dining with the Queen. And this is something Formula One racer Lewis Hamilton found out the hard way. When it's time to feast, the guest of honor usually sits to the right of the Queen, and she speaks to that person during the first course of the dinner. Then she speaks to the person on her left during the second course. Lewis wasn't aware of this royal rule, so he began chatting it up when he wasn't supposed to be speaking to her. Someone actually had to politely tell him that it wasn't his turn to chat. How embarrassing. Baptism outfit. Whenever a new baby is baptized by the head of the English Church, they wear a very specific outfit. The same flowy lace and satin dress has been used in royal baptisms since 1841. Considering it has been around for so long, it's no surprise that it began to wither away as the years passed by. In 2015, Queen Elizabeth II hired a dressmaker to create an exact duplicate of the traditional dress just in time for Princess Charlotte's baptism. So although it wasn't the exact dress that had been worn by over 60 different royal babies, it was pretty much an exact copy. Potty break. You never know when nature might call.
Now, where does he think he's going? When you gotta go, you gotta go.
But if the royals need to use the potty during a meal or any other event, they're expected to do so in the proper way. You'll never hear a royal shout out, "Hey, I need to take a tinkle." Instead, they're expected to simply say, "Excuse me," and quietly walk to the restroom. If they're excusing themselves during the middle of a meal, they're expected to cross their utensils on their plate so that the wait staff knows that they're not finished eating. Royal handshake. There's a very specific way royals are taught to shake hands. To start, they must make direct eye contact with the person in front of them as they firmly grasp their hand. Then they shake their hand once or twice, but they never ever shake more than twice. Then they're supposed to flash their beautiful royal smile. This tradition is something that anyone can implement into their lives. The next time you meet someone new, give them a royal handshake and pretend like you're a part of this prestigious family. Cloth diapers. For centuries, all royal babies wore fabric diapers that were washed and reused over and over again. But some royal mothers moved away from that tradition in later years. Princess Diana was the first to break many royal traditions, including the use of cloth nappies. She also refused to give birth at home and gave birth to her sons, William and Harry, in a hospital instead. Prince William is also known as the first royal baby to wear disposable diapers instead of the cloth ones. Nanny duties. If you've ever dreamed of being a royal babysitter, you'll need to be highly qualified to even be considered for the job. The royal family doesn't take to hiring process lightly, and they make sure everyone who's a part of the royal household is the perfect fit. To maintain the family's tradition, the nanny must be skilled in how to effectively communicate, and it's also helpful if they have some type of background in martial arts. You know, just in case they need to whoop some butt to protect the royal baby. The Duke and Duchess of Cambridge hired a nanny named Maria who was skilled in Taekwondo. She also underwent training on how to dodge the paparazzi with a vehicle and how to drive in various weather conditions. Curtsy. When meeting with the Queen, men and women must greet her in a very traditional and formal way. For men, they bow their necks from the head only. As for the women, they're supposed to give a small curtsy. The longer they hold the curtsy, the more respectful it comes across. In this picture, you can see the Duke and Duchess happily greeting the Queen in the respectful and traditional way. For those who aren't British, they can also greet her by these traditional gestures, but it's not expected if the Queen isn't your head of state. Wedding bouquet. Even a royal bride's wedding bouquet has to stick to the traditions and customs of the royal family. All wedding bouquets must contain the myrtle flower, which is taken from a tree that's grown in Queen Victoria's 170-year-old garden. Each bouquet, including the Duchess of Cambridge's bouquet from her 2011 wedding, has contained at least a sprig of myrtle. This flower is a sign of luck and happiness in a marriage, and it's also considered a symbol of love. During the next royal wedding, pay close attention to the bride's bouquet. We guarantee there will be a sprig of myrtle in there somewhere. Kids' clothing. There's a reason why you never see Prince George in a pair of pants. His parents are dressing him the same way all royal babies have dressed before him. Tradition calls for only adults to wear pants and trousers, so even if it's freezing cold outside, George will always have his adorable little shorts on. He'll be expected to dress in this manner up until he reaches the age of 8, and that's when he'll officially be allowed to wear trousers. His father William also wore shorts in the early years of his life. 4 names. And lastly, all royal babies are given either 3 or 4 names. Prince William's official name is William Arthur Philip Louis, and Prince Harry's real name is Henry Charles Albert David. Some may be surprised to know that the royals don't have an official last name. If a last name is required, such as when Prince George was enrolled into school, their title can be used in that place instead. So for example, Prince George uses the last name of Cambridge when he attends school. Pretty fascinating, isn't it? Let us know which of these royal rules shocked you the most. The most original reply will get pinned to our channel. Be sure to subscribe so you can be notified when we upload a brand new video. See you next time!